stop by for the Nintenbyte. You got the Triforce and it feels right. Like Bowser, you can listen all night, singing Peaches until the sun lights. Summer shoots her beam so bright. Master Hand always brings a fight. Catch 'em all and use that fire blast. Put the soul back to visit your past. Welcome to the Nintenbyte Podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 9 of the Nintenbyte Podcast. Thank you all for joining us today. And we have an exciting show. We have some interesting things to talk about today. Not a ton of Nintendo news this past week, but we definitely have some stuff we're going to speculate on. And outside of that, I think we're going to have some good video game debates. Because, yeah, there's been some interesting stuff going on out there in the gaming world that, you know, it appeals to all gamers. So, exciting stuff. With that said, let's go around and introduce everybody. Let's go ahead and start with Hoops. You want to tell everyone about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So for those who don't know me, I'm Hoops Hip Hop, go by Hoops. I do Pokemon content on my YouTube channel, and I just follow all things Nintendo, and I've been here a few times, so I'm excited to be back.
Awesome. Tucker, can you tell us about yourself?
Hi, I'm Tucker Hazel. I am a mildly recurring guest on this show. I've been here twice. I was on a rather contentious episode a couple of months ago about whether or not a Switch 2 is going to be coming up in 2024. Yeah, I was right, unfortunately. I'm sorry I willed that upon you guys, but I am back for a less contentious episode, but maybe some better vibes. And I'm excited to talk about Nintendo and all sorts of stuff because I just love talking about video games. I have a YouTube channel called Backlog Banter. We have been covering a lot of the summer game season stuff. SGF, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, all that. So we've been very busy with that the last couple of weeks. But usually we do just discussion about games and game history and general gaming topics. But recently we did one very special video, which was a scripted and edited video. Wow, I know that's big come from a guy like me. But it was about the internal structure of Nintendo's development teams, which are known as EPD. And that video put us from 180 subscribers to 1,200. We just hit the other day. So pretty big, grew pretty big in the last month or so. Thank you. Yeah. And it has I think almost hit 90,000 views. So, and which our second most before that was 600 views. So it definitely grew us quite a bit, but I'm hoping to continue that momentum with some more fun conversations, a couple more scripted videos, and I also have a podcast about Nintendo Switch called the Nintendo Select Podcast with a host, and we've had some fun guests like Kevin Kenson we had as a guest a couple weeks ago, and Andres Restart, who I thought was supposed to be here tonight. He's not here apparently, but yeah, if you want a Switch podcast, if you want fun discussions about gaming, if you want to watch me react to different trailers, it's all there.
Awesome. Yeah, Andres was supposed to be here. He's at a bachelor party.
Oh.
So I think he's still having fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Very important.
Right. John, you want to tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm Johnny Bo everywhere. Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I also have a podcast called the Communication Error Podcast where we talk about not just Nintendo stuff, but everything in the gaming world. I'm also on the Nintendo Powercast. And I am more humble this week than I was the last time I was on here. So I have officially lost one of my bets. So I'm not always correct. So I'll be more humble this week than I was the last time. Maybe. We'll see.
No promises.
Did you have to order the chip?
I did order the chip. And I also I bought a clown outfit. I had the clown hair, and I wore that on one of the podcasts. So
that's awesome. Well, you're a man of your word. Can't take that away from me, man.
I ordered it. Now, am I going to eat it? Who knows?
Now, I was curious, actually, before we get to Eric. Yeah, are you going to record this? You know,
do it
live, right?
Yeah. Like I don't know when, but like I feel like if I just eat it like off camera, that'd be kind of weird.
Absolutely.
Just like I'm sitting at home. I'm like, I just want to eat this one chip challenge tonight. Feeling good.
I agree. Yeah, I'll be tuning in though to watch that. That should be interesting.
I'm scared. I'm a little scared.
Eric, you want to tell everyone where they can find you?
Right here. No, Johnny, but it's honestly not that bad as long as it's not stale.
How do you know if it's stale? How do you know if it's like? How do you?
Until you eat it, you don't know.
Oh God! Oh my God! I ordered the so it's like the 2023 edition because I saw something. I don't know if this is true. Maybe you guys could tell me, but they discontinued it because a kid died.
What?
Oh God! I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you don't suffer that same fate.
Yeah, right?
I know.
Yeah. So no, I ate one on one of the shows that we did a while back, and it was stale. And I have a pretty iron stomach. You can ask Nate. But that thing actually did make me vom. So great.
Oh no.
Other than that, no, I am here. Nate is in and out. So
There he is.
that, yeah. So I'm here. That's pretty much where you find me.
Sounds good. And guys, you guys can find me at Thunderstash Gaming. And if you're wondering about Nate, he's probably going to be popping in and out a little bit, depending on his internet connection. Because of course he's on a boat right now.
He's
So who
really
knows?
trying though. He keeps reconnecting.
He
It
is.
hasn't gone well yet, but he keeps trying. Look at him. Look at him
Yeah,
go.
he's dedicated to the craft for sure. So let's go ahead and we're going to start the topic roulette.
Mm.
And Nate, do you want to go first since you're on a time? Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't even know if he can hear us. To be
Yeah, I don't know
honest.
if you can hear us. So
No, he can. He's just staying muted until he actually needs to jump in.
we'll jump around. We'll see if we can get him in there.
Hey, you know what, Steve? Why don't you just go ahead and just go through the topics? It's fine. We don't. If
Let's
you don't
do
mind,
it. Yeah, let's do it.
through it. I know I was going to host one, but just you got them all down and knowledged and whatnot. So I can stumble through reading, but I have a problem with that. So
Are you good?
go through it.
I'll jump right in, guys.
Okay.
All right. So the first topic, and this is in regards to a tweet, okay, that Nash Weedle put out. And let me go ahead and get this screenshot up so everyone can see who's tuned into the live show here. And this is interesting. And I bring this up as I'm pulling this up because this is something that I would personally be interested in.
Okay. There we go.
Let me see if I can, there we go. Now this is a patent. So let me go through this. So Nash Weedle posted this patent and it describes Nintendo showing you multiple screenshots of where you've last left off in the game. So it sounds like a minor improvement, but let me ask you this. How many times have you started a game and then life happens, like forcing you to put a hold on your adventure only for you to return months later, completely forgetting about what you last did in the game, what you were currently doing, and then what you were planning to do? So this is something I've struggled with for what seems like decades now. So what do you guys think about this? Would you appreciate an improvement like this? Would you like to see Nintendo maybe take it a step further by maybe recording your last 15 to 30 seconds of gameplay? Like, what if they gave us an option to even change the length of recorded gameplay? Like, for example, some games, I don't need to know where I left off. Like, if I'm playing NBA 2K, I don't need a 30-second clip taking up
either
my
on the
storage,
menu or
right?
the court.
Right. So I choose to maybe, if there's an option, do screenshots for that. But if I'm playing an RPG, or big open world game, I'd love to have a 30-second clip to like jog my memory because again, let's face it, some days we only get a small window of opportunity to game and you don't want to spend like the first 10 to 20 minutes trying to remember what you were going to do next. So even something like an in-game sticky note where you could write yourself a note like using the touch screen for the next time you pick up the game would be cool.
Yeah.
And as a sub note, on PS5, when you get a trophy, it will record a clip of gameplay.
Annoyingly so.
Yeah. But the tech point is, and I agree with you, but the technology is there.
Yeah.
And they offer you a way to change it to a screenshot or change the length of the clip. So to me, it sounds like the same thing, except for saving, which, like I said, I think this would be super helpful so I could jump in and out of a game. What do you guys think? Tucker, you want to go ahead and go first with this?
Sure. Well, I do want to add a little context. I opened up the tweet that you were looking at from Nashweedle, and I hit translate. And one thing I don't know if you mentioned, but is this patent seems to be for now only for Switch Online games, so
Yes.
Virtual Console, previous system games. And so you mentioned something like NBA 2K, and obviously it's not on NSO. So this, I think, does make a little more sense in terms of how easy it is to telegraph what you're going to be doing or what you did just do on older games that are much more straightforward or linear, or it's more obvious, like what the last area we're in. But it's a very cool idea. I'm someone with a passion for the games that I'm playing where I don't put them down for extended periods of time. And if I put a game down for longer than like a week, I'm not coming back to it. That's just the honest to God truth. I know myself well enough to where I've moved on to something else by that point in time. So I don't know if this would ever help me actively, but it's obviously something that would be very, very interesting to be able to mess with and choose what works best for you as a game player, because obviously not everyone plays the way that I do. So yeah, I would like this. I actually remember the only thing that I can think of in a game, and I'm sure there are other examples, but the one that comes to my head of a game that does something like this is actually the Generation 4 games for Pokemon on DS, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and Platinum would have a little journal that when you started up the game before you were able to get into the world, you would have to read through like the last 3 things that you did and be like, you kind of put this Pokemon on this route on this day, or you beat this gym, or you traded with this person. And so that I remember that always like having to like just tap through that. I'm like, okay, get out of the way. But obviously there are some people that need something like that. And an image is a lot better than a DS journal automatically chronicling what last Starly you caught. So I like this idea quite a bit, and Nintendo's always experimenting with things like this. So I would love to see them implement this.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's pretty cool. And you did mention that the translation up here is for the NSO, and I would love to see this come to like the actual console for Switch too.
Yeah,
is what I failed to mention. I would love to see this actually come to the console, because you'd think if they can get it to work on the NSO, it should be able to work on Switch too, especially if that technology seems like it's already there, like with the PlayStation trophy system and recording your gameplay. So yeah, this would be cool. I would appreciate it for sure. John Nebo, what do you think?
Oh yeah, no, this would be awesome, because I think I don't know if I'm the only one, but I've restarted games. Like if
absolutely.
like I actually went back to Metroid Prime Remastered recently, and I'm like, what the heck was I doing? I don't know where to go, and I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what the objective is, so it's a little tricky remembering. But there is a modern game that does a pretty good job of this. It's Dragon Quest XI. They have a whole previously on. Whenever you load up the game, it's like previously on, and then it shows like what happened in the story, where you're meant to go next. And yeah, it would be a huge benefit to have something like this. And I
think it would be very forward thinking.
It would.
Just to be completely honest, very, very forward thinking. I know
we're gonna wait like 20 years for Nintendo to get this.
I mean, look, yeah, PlayStation's kind of played around with a similar concept with some of the retro game library things, and I think when you look at what the other platforms are doing with like quick resume and all this other stuff, this is just another way to further enhance things. obviously the way this is reading is it only applies to NSO. But this reminds me of remember when Nintendo had this idea, Reggie Fils-Aimé put it out there at the beginning of the Switch generation about what NSO, the app, was supposed to be. Anyone remember?
That. No, I don't.
Well, Reggie promised that you would be able to make groups, which we can't do. You'd be able to plan events with your friends on your friends list through the application to plan future play dates. And all of this sounded great because no other, PlayStation doesn't do that, Xbox doesn't do that. And then Nintendo just never did it. NSO came out and boop, we never got the actual features that were promised for that NSO app. Eric definitely remembers this because I was mad. I was very mad because he actually made the phone app sound exciting for a moment.
Oh, the mobile app. Oh,
yeah. You're supposed to be able to message people and set play times and like none of that. Actually
I
happened.
do kind of remember that now. Yeah.
So this now reminds me of like that, where it's like, dude, this is a really cool idea, and because it's so damn cool, we're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents.
Is the NSO app going away? Like, are we still going to have to use that thing for the Switch?
The phone app?
Yeah, the phone app.
No, they're going to keep using it just because I think it connects them to the mobile fan base because they have Nintendo accounts for their mobile games. So I feel like that it won't go away. They need to expand it. They need to make it better. They
definitely rolled back their mobile initiative a little bit over the last couple of years. I mean, Mario Kart Tour is not being supported anymore. And when was the last time they put out a new game?
Well, I mean, I think Mario Kart Tour is not being supported because they're going to have a new one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we're going to get a Mario Kart Tour port to the Switch too. That's
here's the thing. I know it's a little off topic, but I do think that the Mario Kart Tour was kind of made as just like all their mobile games were, to be kind of this experimental game and see how it does. Obviously, Tour was very popular for them. They had like over 200 million downloads. That's huge for them. However, it didn't function with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I feel like they want to launch a new version that functions with the brand new Mario Kart coming to the next system.
Very, very possible.
So you got to remember, a lot of people that worked on Tour also worked on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah.
So the teams are very close. So it's kind of like, I think they just needed to kill. I think they just realized at some point we need to kill this to create cross functionality with the next one. I think that's actually going to be a huge thing they advertise when the next one comes out, that you can play, a mobile version. And even like some of the races or some of the modes, you might even be able to play with people on Switch 2 and stuff. So
imagine with, especially with kind of how they monetize Mario Kart Tour, if they crossed over a new one with a new Mario Kart, and let's say Mario Kart, the mobile version, has all these like playable characters that are just like beyond the roster of a regular Mario Kart, but like you have to either earn them or like it's like pay to win, so you have to basically buy them, but then you can transfer over the racers that you have in the mobile game to the Switch game. Like, I think that is a feature, just from you bringing up that idea, that would be super cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Or super advantageous to them, I should say. It wouldn't be cool to have to like buy characters, but I could definitely see them doing something like that.
Yeah.
And guys, I actually want to bring up this other point too. There's an additional tweet that followed from Nash, for what it's worth, just because it is some new news. But they mentioned that it also seems that at some point the NSO virtual console will be able to be grouped together and have a customizable menu where you can sort the games, all of them, like regardless of the console to which it belongs to, eliminating the games that you are not interested in and leave the ones you want. And, I read this and do I really care? Not a ton. Like, it doesn't bother me. What I like about it is the fact that they're changing things around. Like, they're doing new things, because seeing this gives me hope that, hey, on the Switch 2, hopefully we'll have a much improved operating system. A much improved way of organizing our games. Maybe we'll have folders.
Yeah.
Like just some of the normal things, I guess, we become accustomed to if we play games on other consoles, right? I would love to see that. So this tweet kind of gave me hope that they're doing things that we're not really thinking they're going to do, like this, save state technology. No one's really done anything different when it comes to saving games, right? That's not something that would have been on my list of things that I would have predict to be part of Switch 2, is a new way to save your games where you have screenshots or footage of what you did next. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think what's exciting most about this idea, because this is more buzzing me than that last one, is that it does. We knew that they wanted to continue on the same eShop and things to the next console, make sure they weren't losing and continuing on the subscriber base and people maintaining their purchases. But I'm very glad that this indicates that that NSO specifically will also be carried over, because something I've been thinking about recently is I think NSO is a great service. I think it's worth the time, and I've played plenty of great games on there. But I've been worried that I will not have access to this for very long. But if they're continuing it over onto Switch 2, and it seems like consolidating it and making it something that's even more accessible and customizable, and maybe an even more core part of that Switch 2 experience, that is very, very exciting to me. And especially because you can see the decisions that were made from the beginning of the Switch, not launching with NSO, launching with just NES when that was just a thing, then adding Super Nintendo, adding N64, adding Genesis, the Game Boys, and now even the mature app for the two N64 games. It's a very scattershot, download what you want, kind of piecemeal, awkward thing where some of them have weird libraries, some of them have great libraries. But I think that if there's just a Nintendo Switch Online app that has a different tab for each of the consoles and your home tab where you can put just the games you want, you don't have to have those godforsaken SP versions cluttering up your menu. Like, there are so many things that I like about NSO, but it is very clearly a service that was put together over time and not thought of as one cohesive experience from the beginning. And with a next gen console refresh, start clean, make it one app, make it customizable, update the UI a little bit. You don't have to have all these things separately downloaded. I think that sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from this, was just the idea that, the customization stuff, don't really care that much about it, but one app, everything included. I don't think they'll update it on Switch because just the way it is. But when Switch 2 comes out, it really does feel like, hey, they're thinking about how to make NSO really pop on that next platform. It's going to be their day one, unlike coming nearly 2 years late to the Nintendo Switch.
Less friction.
If you have all of the games ready to go and you have it all in one application that they make, you within the application, if you want to navigate by platform, that's cool. You can have that in there, but that might just be one way to navigate. You can probably have your favorites list and navigate that way. I get what they were doing with the original NSO, was each app is its own emulator, and that's kind of how they're running it. But that's not convenient for the end user. I mean, I've got like 6 or 7 different spots on my back end of my Switch for different NSO apps, and then there's also a giant NSO icon at the bottom of the home menu that, like,
you can see those all being integrated into one thing.
Yeah, like, it's weird because you go to the NSO icon and it gives you the news. Oh, here's the latest update. Then you click on a game and it loads a completely different application. And it's like, what is this? This is not very user intuitive.
Like how Game Pass is on Xbox, just one of the main things at the top or the bottom of the screen. Like, foreground it, make it easy to access, keep it all in one place, and just make it, because I don't think if it was all under that one thing, even people that don't pay for it would just click on that because it's one of the main things on there and be like, oh, that's a lot of games that I would get access to. It would probably make people subscribe than being confused of, oh, I have to download this separate one. And then if I want the mature games, like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the mature game one is something they'll probably have to sort out how to, like, limit that. I guess if it's a kid account, it just wouldn't load, right? Yeah. That's what I presume, if it's a kid account, unless the parents approved it. But I just really like what I see Nintendo doing here. Regardless of the customization, the fact they're thinking about it. But again, this is just like I said before, it's one of those things where whenever it seems like there's these cool ideas, they don't always really come out. Yeah. And these are just patents, which means these could be completely canceled ideas that they're not going to do. So, but I have hope, because here's the thing: we know a new platform's coming. and they got to make it stand out. And this could be one of the ways where they're like, hey, we learned now your NSO experience is subscription you pay every year for, or every month, depending. Man, we just made this nice and smooth and snappy and ready to go for you out the gate. And if they let you do that, and then also let you get the feature from PlayStation Xbox with the quick resume.
Oh yeah,
That'd be
nice.
sick.
Deal.
That would be sick.
They did. I don't know if you guys got an email from Nintendo, but I got one last night, and I'm sure you probably did. But it was in regards to the NSO. So it was for NSO members. They sent out a survey on wanting to hear like what are your most liked features? What would you improve? All this stuff. So that was good to see as well, because they're asking the fans, hey, what would you like to improve here? And they also gave you an option to write in whatever you want them to do. And of course I wrote in for them to add more consoles. What they had asked is like, why are you basically for sure going to renew your membership? That wasn't the exact words, but I had filled that out in my survey. And I just put, because I expect that you guys are going to be adding new consoles for the Switch too. So yeah, I'm very excited to renew my membership. But I'm going to get that seed planet right now for them.
I will attribute it to you if it does happen.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. While we're on this topic of these improvements with the UI and whatnot, I would also really like to see them improve their online storefront majorly. I think it's kind of a mess, but more than that, it's clunky and it's slow. I don't know if that's everyone's experience, but that's been mine.
It takes ages to load for absolutely.
I just bought Switch vouchers to get Luigi's Mansion 2, and it is so slow. I don't understand why it's that slow.
The Wii U eShop was also slow. That took forever.
It's slow because it's a web application. It's not actually a local app on your system. It's a web page.
Yeah.
It's literally a web page that they're loading in. So, yeah.
Because it's been slow since day one. Like, since going onto the store when the Switch came out, I remember the first time I'm like looking to see how my internet connection is.
Yeah.
And, I'm pulling it up on my phone to see what my internet speed is like. Is my internet okay? I'm like, this can't be the Switch, is it? Like, this is brand new. It can't be this slow. But sure enough, it has been. And we've all learned to live with it. It's not a big deal. How many times, do you really go onto the store? Usually I know what I'm going to go buy, or I'm checking out a sale. But even, I will say this, even when I'm checking out like one of these massive sales that they're having.
God. And you have to load.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's like, God, this is taking forever, man. Like, is there a list I could look at online? So that would be nice for sure. Do you guys have anyone want to add anything before we get ready to switch over to this next topic?
Yeah, can I throw my 2 cents in here real quick?
Absolutely.
With the save states and stuff like that, I think it actually would also be kind of cool to put in, an option for, like, if you want to put a description of that save state too, just so you can, if they don't do a clip, give you an option of a 25-word, description of what you were doing if you want to. I know a lot of people are just going to go the hell with that and just, but give you the option. I think it'd be a pretty neat thing. And yeah, obviously you guys touched on it, seeing all of the NSOs in one app would be freaking amazing. Because it's I want to play something on the NES, so no, now I want to go play something on the SNES one. Now I got to quit out of this one, go into that one. It's just time consuming and stupid. So
it is. That's a good point too. I like your idea that at least give you some characters to work with, so you can actually write a little note to yourself on where you left off. And, you mentioned the apps as well. And I was just thinking of it as you said it. It's like, when you do want to switch games, it's kind of annoying that you have to exit out of the app and then go into another app. And if you haven't accessed the app in like a week or two, it seems, I don't know about you guys, but it always has to like check to make sure you can play the app every time. And then sometimes it needs to update the app. It's like, I just want to get in and play it, man.
Yeah, dude, I can't play any NSO games on this trip.
I was wondering.
Oh yeah.
At all. I
Yeah.
just can't. It won't let me. We got to do an online verification check. What are you talking about? My Switch has been online connected for like 17 months. Can you just like let me play my shit? But I'm having that problem with a lot of games. And yes, my Switch is my main Switch. Some of the games work just fine. Some of them don't, including some of my physical games. I don't know why.
Oh no.
It's very weird. Some are fine and some aren't.
Are you having that issue with Paper Mario still? That you had at the airport?
Yeah, I still have that problem.
Oh my God. That's horrible.
So yeah, when I'm connected to some weird Wi-Fi, like I'm not connected on Wi-Fi on the cruise ship because you have to pay per device, right? So I'm not gonna like spend $150 to connect my Switch to their Wi-Fi. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, no.
Like I'm already doing it to do the podcast and stuff. So I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. And I know I got a lot of comments for those who don't know. I put on Twitter while I was traveling that my daughter bought me Paper Mario, 1,000-Year Door, and I went to load it up and it wouldn't load without doing an online check, which it's not supposed to do that with a physical game unless it's not your main Switch and it's like a second Switch. But it is my main Switch, and it lets me play most of my digital games and everything else. But that one physical card, if I put Tears of the Kingdom in physically, no problem. I put in Mario Odyssey, no problem. I put in that game, nope, we need to check online quick. So, yeah, I played a little bit of it at the airport on their shitty free Wi-Fi, which was fine. I only need to do a check, and then I get to play. Then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to leave the game loaded, right?
Yeah, of course.
The other day, I go to play it on my thing. Oh, well, because I checked, I went and changed my theme color back to dark because for some reason it went back to the light mode. And I did that, and I went back and it said, oh, hey, there's been an error. We need to reload your game.
Yeah, you can't even go to the home screen. Yeah, that's happened to me before.
So now I just can't play it right now. I just don't get to play. It's kind of frustrating because I was hoping to have the game pretty much beat before my trip, and now it's like, well, now I'm not really even playing my Switch at all until I get home. So, yeah, that needs to get better. Like, I don't know what they're doing, and I understand we're living in this world where all these systems are like this always online thing.
Yeah.
But like, Switch is a on-the-go platform. It's not going to be always online. We shouldn't be dealing with these problems, especially with physical games.
Yeah, absolutely.
No real excuse. I mean, even digitally, there shouldn't be. You should only need to check once a month. In my opinion, anyways. Like, you do an online check quick to make sure you own the game, but you should already know I own the game. If I downloaded the damn game, it's my game.
I agree.
But,
I was disappointed when I saw your tweet. I truly was. I was like, man, that's some bullshit. You're trying to play your game right now and you literally can't. And that goes against everything that kind of the Switch is. Like, we shouldn't have to deal with any of that, especially with a physical game. So, yeah, that was disappointing to read, man. No doubt.
I know.
Just to give Joycey J a response, she's like, call a Nintendo tech service. I actually did. And they just said, well, it shouldn't do that.
Oh, classic.
Yeah.
No, that was it. They had no other way for me to problem solve it.
I mean, that's good to hear because it shouldn't. Remember, I replied to your tweet. I'm like, that shouldn't happen because I played Paper Mario on the go. I played it in the car and everything was fine. So I don't know what's going on. And I guess they don't.
The funny
either.
thing is, I thought maybe it was just me, but then a couple other people DM me and said, hey, this is happening to me too. Have you figured out a solution? I'm like, no. So,
Dang.
and this probably all has to do with like Nintendo's account system in general. Probably needs a little updating heading into this next gen system. They tacked on a lot of features over this generation. I think they need to like recode it a bit going into the next one.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. All right. We'll go ahead and switch over to our next topic. And this is an exciting one. So this is going to definitely be some predictions on all of our parts. So with the Nintendo Direct out of the way and Nintendo's first party release calendar set for the rest of the calendar year, and we know that DK Country Returns is coming out January 16th, and that is the only 2025 first party title that has a firm release date. I feel like the Switch 2 reveal to trigger the marketing campaign is like right around the corner. And during Gamescom 2023, there were credible rumors that the Switch 2 was shown behind closed doors, with Breath of the Wild running at 60 FPS and 4K. Now, Gamescom 2024 is actually coming up pretty soon. It's August 21st to the 25th, followed then by the Tokyo Game Show about a month later at the end of September. Then, of course, we have the Game Awards December 12th. Now, here's kind of my question I want to pose, and I'll say a few more things here. Do you think Nintendo wants to have the first reveal of Switch 2 published out to the public before Gamescom to try and control the Switch 2 narrative? Because if they showed it a year ago behind closed doors, one would think that they would show it again this year to showcase possibly updated hardware and demo its capabilities. And if they do, they run the risk again of leaks getting out for public consumption. Furthermore, if we believe the rumor that the Switch 2 is coming out around maybe March, April 2025, and that it was supposed to come out this holiday season, but was internally delayed due to software not being ready. And of course, that rumor is up for debate. All rumors really are. We don't know, but that could mean that some studios that have been sitting on games that are potentially ready to go right now, or damn near close to being ready, if it was supposed to come out in 2024. So one would surmise that possibly Switch 2 launch games could show up at Gamescom, either behind closed doors, or if Nintendo has already shown the Switch 2 to the public, then these developers would be able to show it to the public at Gamescom, which I'm sure would make plenty of devs happy. Sure, it would make shareholders happy as well. Otherwise, they won't be showing off Switch 2 games at Gamescom until August 2025, which would be hopefully long after the Switch 2 has hit store shelves. So what do you guys think? First off, I'll pose the question, when do you think we will get the first reveal, whether it be a teaser or what? Tell me how that's going to go, when and why. Who would like to jump in on this first? Nate, go ahead.
just while my connection's working. I missed half of what you said, but I know what the topic is.
You know, right?
Yeah. So I think it's probably going to end up being in October. I think they're not going to give a crap about Gamescom, and I don't think they're going to show up behind the scenes at Gamescom either. Every developer that's making games for it already has a dev kit. I'm pretty confident in that. So they don't need to really show it. I understand there's indie devs and others. Nintendo will worry about that stuff once the system's announced. Look, they said we're going to hear about it before the end of the fiscal year, right? So it's like about 9 months. We have like a 9-month window here. The rumors, of course, say it's coming out in March. And the further we go in, all the people that were saying all those rumors about it being in March, they seem to just get more and more confident that it's happening in March. Now, again, they were also confident that we were going to get it revealed last March. So, yeah, what is well, you can't put a ton of stock in rumors, but like Nintendo's got a really solid slate of games right now, all the way through Donkey Kong coming out in January. And I kind of think that if it's a March release, I think they're going to try to do what they did with Switch. They're not worried about Gamescom and third-party games, although I guarantee you third parties would love for this damn thing to be revealed before Gamescom. But yeah, because it really benefits them to be able to finally talk about the games they're going to bring. But I think that they'll probably reveal it very similar to what they did with Switch. You get that teaser in October that kind of just tells you, hey, this next gen Switch is coming, and here's a few games, and here's a couple brand new features that just like make it just feel significantly different than the current Switch. Kind of like the initial teases for iPhone sometimes, where it's kind of like here's like this one big thing, like when they did the dynamic island. Hey, let's feature the dynamic island that really is different than what the prior iPhone was. So I think something like that. And then in January, they'll do a bigger blowout. I don't think they really are worried about overshadowing Donkey Kong. I think they've seen the reaction to Donkey Kong. Not really thinking they're too concerned. It's either going to sell or it's not. Yeah. And then just full steam ahead. I think the wild part's going to be if and when they do the teaser, because they're going to do it at some point, when Metro Prime 4 is also in that teaser. I mean, people are already thinking it's cross-gen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I personally would go nuts if Pokemon Legends was in that teaser, but
that would be cool.
That's wishful thinking, I think. I don't know. I'm going to toss it over to Hoops. I haven't heard him talk at all this entire show because my stuff was cutting out. So what are you thinking?
Unleash the beast.
Well, I actually did kind of think about this a little before the show, and it's just my opinion, but I feel like I would actually be surprised if they did sort of a reveal like they did with the Switch, like during this year. I feel like it's a little more likely that they'll do something like they did with the Switch in January, where they had that big presentation. And I think that will be the reveal of the Switch 2. And the reason why I say that is because with this last Direct, we kind of got the feeling that even though we know the Switch is kind of like on the way out, that they still are putting some they're putting some legit games on it still. We got Zelda, we got the new Mario Party, we got Mario and Luigi. So like we're actually getting some like decently like hype stuff still. And I feel like because we're still getting that kind of stuff, I just feel like it would be a shot in the foot to them if they do even just like a teaser of the Switch 2 in like, say like September, October or something like that, and like kind of botch the holiday season in that way. If it was just like Luigi's Mansion or just like remasters like Donkey Kong or something like that, like I wouldn't be as concerned. But because we got like Zelda and a couple of those other games, I just feel like they want to have one more solid holiday with the Switch in the spotlight. And then I could totally see them like January doing that presentation type thing. And I think you could even have like, I feel like a March release date still wouldn't be out of the question, because they could have a full press conference like they did with the Switch. They could show you all the bells and whistles and they'd be like, it's coming out end of March or whatever. Like I still think there's enough of a window there that they could do that, but I could also see because of that it being a little bit later. But yeah, I just kind of feel like the Switch, they want to give it a little more time based on the games they showed.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think that my reading mostly comes from everything that you said there, not wanting to stomp on what seems to be a pretty successful, or what will be a successful holiday slate. I think that also I am a little bit wary of expecting the exact same cadence. And I know we're not saying the exact same, but a teaser is not necessary for what seems to be a largely similar system. We don't need to just see a little bit of it. That's not really necessary. And I also think that because it seems like it'll be a largely similar system, they don't need the same kind of time to talk about it before it comes out, right? We are all in this ecosystem. We're all waiting for the next console. It's going to sell way better than the Switch did at launch because Nintendo's fan base is just a lot bigger now. The amount of time between the announcement and release, I think I agree with you. I think it can be 3 or 4 months. I would say probably April or May or something like that for the system. January reveal. Don't need to mention anything before it. You're not stomping on the holiday season. Black Friday is focused entirely still on that Switch stuff. I think this is going to take longer than people want. And I think that's going to annoy the crap out of Nintendo fans on the internet. But I foresee this being a longer tail thing for the Switch in 2024. The only thing that I keep going back and forth on in my mind is we don't know the launch game for this next system. And that is something that they might want a little more time to talk about, to have in a couple of directs, have a couple of trailers, which I guess is possible if it's like January reveal for that game alongside the system and then a March direct before the system launches like a month later. I'm not quite sure where I land on that, but mostly I feel like this is going to be something we're going to be waiting till the last moment to hear about.
And one more thing I wanted to mention is that I feel like it'll be a little bit different than the Switch situation with where they did that teaser in like August or whenever it was, and then they did the January show.
Yeah.
Because in that scenario, we were still in like the Wii U era where everything was just like crap had hit the fan.
Yeah.
Like they needed to show something good. Whereas with
they also
the
barely
Switch,
had games that holiday season.
yeah, with the Switch, they can afford to wait. So I feel like that's
Absolutely.
another point in favor of that.
Yeah.
You guys remember what we got, right? That holiday season,
I
Holiday
don't.
2016.
the
Summer
NES,
Splash?
the NES Classic Edition.
Ah,
Well, that was
Dude,
that
that was
year?
a massive seller, man.
Yeah,
Huge
that
numbers.
was the filler for the holiday season because they didn't have anything. They weren't going to sell any
Yeah.
Wii U's.
They stopped making the Wii U's in October of that year.
Yeah, and you know me, like growing up on the NES, I was actually really excited because I knew I was buying the Switch, regardless of being the fact that I was a day one Wii U owner and it didn't do great. Like I wasn't mad at Nintendo. They're always trying new things. You know, you got to appreciate that. That's the only way, you know, the video game industry is going to grow. And so it was okay, but we got that NES Classic Edition. And because it did so good, then we got the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, which I still wonder if they even had that plan originally. And maybe they're like, you know what? This sold so well, we got to do it. You know, why not?
But then they stopped liking money and they didn't put the N64 Classic
I
out.
know.
Yeah.
I have a fun story. So the NES Classic, my partner was she went out like in the middle of the night to go to wait in line in Best Buy because they were sold out everywhere. And this was like a week before Christmas. And now I feel like a jerk because it's just collecting dust. Like I think I used it once or twice and it just collects dust.
Yeah. NSO is just the better version, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't have the exact same games, but you're just going to play them on your Switch if you're going to play them.
It's so funny. I will mention one thing about that NES Classic Edition real quick, but same thing. I went in line at Best Buy to get it, and I was working across the street where I worked for a long time at Loan Depot Mortgage Company, and I was the director over there, and so I had to leave to get this, and I literally was bringing employees with me to make sure we could get as many as we need. It wasn't to resell, so everyone in the office who wanted one got one.
Wow.
And I kid you not, we had a lot of gamers in the office that work in mortgage, and then shortly thereafter, I don't like talk about hacking much, but the hack came out for the NES Classic, and of course I learned how to do it, and I had people that would drop off the NES Classics
great, yeah.
in my office so I could mod them on my laptop because I was like, yeah, I got a template. It's really easy. It takes like 10 minutes. And everyone's like trying to pay me money. I'm like, no, I'm not accepting any money. I will just do it for free because I want you to enjoy these Nintendo games. You know, like I don't want anything. And it was, I probably mod it. I'd say at least 20 NES Classics
Oh
while
my
I worked
God.
there for free because it was just so easy. And it's like, you know, the joy these Nintendo games bring to people was enough for me. So I was like, yeah, just bring it in, man. Don't worry about it. So it was cool. John, did you have anything else you want to add, right?
Well, I think what everybody said is pretty on the nose. I don't think if you asked me, I think we did talk about this before the direct, and I said that they were going to do the normal, or they were going to do what they did with the Switch with the reveal trailer in October, then have the presentation in January, release in March. But now, after the direct, I don't think they want to eat their lunch. So, like, you have a Zelda game coming out in September, plus you have the Zelda Edition Switch. So they're still trying to sell the Switch. I know maybe that the market for that is people that already own a Switch. Like I know I'm gonna pick one up.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not too worried.
It's a total collector's item.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they don't worry about that, but they still, they have Zelda, they have Mario Party, and then they have Mario and Luigi. They're all 3 brand new games that, like, if somebody says, "Oh, I'll just wait until the Switch 2 comes out," like, they might just kill the momentum for those games.
See, the momentum for the games I don't think will be affected because there's already 140 million people that own a Switch. Like, they're going to buy, the games are going to sell.
Would know about the next system if it had been announced. I mean, the Switch is such a mainstream thing that I would say easily half the audience is just people that don't follow gaming news. They don't know what's being announced. They didn't watch the directs. Like, the people that are like us that watch directs and know what the rumors are a microscopic fraction of that. And so, new Mario Party is being advertised on TV that my kids are watching. Oh, new Zelda. Oh, I'll go get that. They could also just like nip it in the bud and say, hey, the Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible. Like, if you buy these games, you'll still be able to play them on the new system.
Yeah, like, I think they're going to announce it this calendar year, and in doing that, that will be one of the things that they do tease is that it's backwards compatible. So, like, full confidence in buying games right now. But they're still planning to sell a lot of Switches, so I think they got a lot of plans for that. We've already seen them lower the price on some games. We haven't seen them lower price on Switch yet. I think that's one of the ones they're keeping in the bag for the holidays.
Yeah, definitely.
I think they're going to do some big holiday price cuts, or if not price cuts, some crazy bundles where you get like an OLED Switch for $350, but it comes with like 4 games.
Holy crap.
That'd be cool. That was kind of what I was thinking too, is that I feel like when they do reveal the Switch 2, there's a decent chance that a price drop is announced in tandem. But then it's like, all right, well, when is it going to happen? Because let's say, hypothetically, just throw it out there that they reveal it in September. They do a teaser reveal this September. September, what, 26 is it? We have the Zelda Switch coming out. So you don't want, if you're Nintendo, right, you don't want to drop the price of the brand new Zelda, right? You can't charge people more for it just because it's gold. Like, that wouldn't sit well with people. So then I thought about it earlier, and kind of what you were saying, Nate, is like, I mean, I could definitely see them dropping the price for Black Friday this year.
Yeah,
and
I think
bundles.
November. Yeah, because also they are. I think they're going to most certainly have a September direct, and so I don't think you announce that before a direct or even around a direct.
I think they do like a holiday sales announcement thing that happens late October or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, oh yeah, Black Friday deal, and then they drop the price, and everyone's like, oh man, now's the time to get it. Now's the time to get it.
Yeah,
and then Nintendo just quietly never raises the price back up and just leaves it there.
The question is, how low do you think it will go? Because we got the Lite, of course, the regular model and the OLED. Are they going to phase one of these models out?
How much do they still sell the regular model, like, at all?
Yeah,
I could see. I could maybe see them dropping like each model about $50. So OLED becomes $3, regular $250, and then Switch Lite is $150, which feels like a steal. So I feel like those would fly off the sales at that point.
I think 50 down and a bundle, like, and a game included. I think that because that's really what they did a lot of for late gen DS, 3DS stuff, and also Wii U. I mean, they were dropping prices and also bundling everything. I mean, I got my Wii U late. I got it with Mario 3D World and Nintendo Land, like, in the system. It was great.
One last holiday of those Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundles. Let's go.
Yep.
And I was thinking that too.
If they're like, personally, if there was like a dark horse chance of them revealing the Switch 2 this year, at least in my own mind, I feel like it would work with like a tandemized price cut where they announce probably a price cut like before they do the reveal, so they're not like doing it like a reactionary thing, and then they announce the Switch or whatever. But I think a price cut, especially if it was significant enough, could still drive enough sales, because I feel like I said, if you dropped the Switch Lite to $150, like I think with all the games it can play, even if it's
Totally.
like handheld only, that's a
Yeah.
steal, and I think that would drive sales on its own. So
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's a steal too, and it's like think about all the kids that want a Switch system, and you have, as a parent, you have zero intention. Nate's brought this up before. As a parent, you have zero intention of buying them a Switch 2. You know, like that's an adult
brand new system.
It's
Yeah.
an adult console. We're not buying that for you, but we can get them a Switch 1 for sure, and especially at that price. If it does go down to that price, I mean, I keep seeing on Twitter, Wario64 posting brand new Switches at I think it was Walmart and GameStop, brand new ones, brand new at GameStop. Let me make that clear because I know a lot of times you try and buy it and you get it used over there, but I think it was 170 and I've been seeing it for 159
Wow.
for the Switch Lite. So I'm like, dude, I'm consistently seeing these lower prices.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Just make it a thing.
Something's up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're
it
probably
seems like it'd be
overstocked.
easy.
They're probably overstocked at this point.
Yeah. I'm letting you guys in on a little secret. I just came up with this, but I think this is a lock. All right. We're writing this down. They have another holiday game. This is a holiday game that has not been announced yet. And this is an on cartridge Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Booster Course Pass on one thing. Put new Mario Kart out on store shelves, bundle. They usually have that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundle. This is a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Booster Course Pass bundle. I up the marketing on Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8 selling Switch Lights and Switch OLED bundles for cheaper. That game comes on the system. That is how you move. What, 12 million? I think they're projecting on the last year of a system's life. That's how you do it.
I do see that happening as well. I absolutely do. That's something we've talked about a couple of times. We've tossed that idea around, and it just makes sense. Mario Kart is printing money on the Switch, and yeah, you have this Ultimate Edition, which doubles the amount of tracks. I mean, I'm sure you guys all have played it, and this was like in my memory, this could be like the best DLC I've seen on any game. This has been amazing. And so, yeah, to put it all on one cartridge, I think it would definitely sell. No doubt about it. Eric, what do you think?
All right. This is what I want to happen. Not necessarily what I think will happen, but this is what I want to happen. So September Direct comes along and they just show everything. They just show out, all these third-party games, all these, high-end games, and they don't say anything until one more thing. All of these things can be played on Nintendo Switch 2. They don't actually show it. They give you the logo for it, and then they say in October we'll have, an actual reveal of it. And then during that reveal of it, at the end of that, the one more thing of that would be then they announce their Black Friday cuts for that Black Friday cuts, as Nate said.
Yeah.
That then, they just kind of stay that price.
That'd be great. I'd love to see that happen. I'd love to see it this year. I think we would all love to see it this year. Obviously, we don't want to put too much stock in any date because we don't know. But I could see a path for both ways for sure for this year, and I could see a path for January. I part of me feels like it's not going to follow an identical path, right, to the Switch because this is a completely different scenario. You had a system that was doing very poorly with the Wii U that they weren't even manufacturing anymore, as we've went over. So that's completely different. But also, you're going from a Wii U to a hybrid console, right? And that was completely different. And with this,
exactly.
Yeah, we're going from Switch to Switch 2, and of what we know, right? Of what little we know the rumored specs. But there's not much outside of that we know, except for that it's going to follow the same path. We're not going from GameCube to motion controls with the Wii. Yeah. We're not reinventing the game. It's Nintendo to Super Nintendo, except on a much higher scale, because this is going to be a huge jump from what we've seen, of course, with those rumored specs. Big jump for Nintendo.
Definitely. Yeah.
Would anyone like to add anything else before we jump over to our next topic?
I'm good.
You guys good?
I think we're good.
All right. So this is an interesting topic, I think, and I'm glad we're going to talk about
All
it.
right, finally,
because,
let's get to it. Yeah.
this is running rampant on the internet, on social media. So this topic really took off over this past weekend, and it is still going strong. And it's with the release of Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. And I know many of us have discussed the real possibility of Elden Ring Complete Edition, as we've hoped for, coming to Switch 2 as like a big third-party launch title, similar to Skyrim on the Switch. And of course, we know Elden Ring is on PS4, and we know the rumored specs of the Switch are much better than that. So it could happen. It should happen. Now, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, X, Reddit, this debate has revolved around the DLC's overall difficulty level. So some believe it's way too high, while others are claiming that the difficulty level is standard for the Souls formula games. Even, and I hope I don't butcher this guy's name, but Hidetaki Miyazaki. I probably butchered the heck out of that.
That's close enough.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Miyazaki,
Thank you. So he's from Software's president.
Hidetaka, I believe. Hidetaka
Yeah.
Miyazaki.
This guy's impressive. I did some research into him, but he's still
He's the man.
dude, he is, dude. He still directs, writes, and produces games, and he's the president.
Yeah.
So think about any company you've ever worked for, right? And just imagine like the president of the company rolling up his sleeves on a regular basis and sitting down and doing what you do for your job, or what he does or she does for her job. That's the equivalent here. Like, this guy gets his hands dirty. I was very much impressed about that work ethic that he must have, and the love for creating games. So a lot of respect there. And some of the quotes that he came out with are quite interesting when it comes to the difficulty. And the first one was that the studio's games simply must push players to overcome often brutal challenges, because that's how the games were designed. And another quote that he had is, with regards to difficulty, he said, "I know we get a lot of credit for saying, yeah, our games are difficult, but it's not a matter of simply cranking up the difficulty. It's doing so fairly. For instance, like when players are killed and they can understand why they were killed in an instance, and it feels justified as to why you died, like it didn't feel like a cheap death." He says, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's the game design we're trying to achieve, which I think we all respect, and we'll talk about that. And his last quote was regarding Elden Ring's difficulty. Had we taken the approach of lowering the difficulty, I don't think the game would have done what it did, because the sense of achievement that players gain from overcoming these hurdles is such a fundamental part of the experience. Turning down difficulty would strip the game of that joy, which in my eyes said would break the game itself. So I thought these quotes that I read from him were really good. I really respected it. And I'll give my opinion on it last. Kind of open this up to you guys and go around the room. Nate, maybe I'll go with you first while you still got a good, strong internet connection there.
Man, this entire debate on difficulty in games has just, because this has been happening the entire time I've been on vacation. Every time I check social media, it's just everywhere.
It's been happening the entirety of the last decade.
I mean, it has been for a long time, but it's like the Souls games are really what kind of brought it to the forefront for many people. I mean, there was the director of the game saying, hey, if people want to use guides to play the game, he's totally cool with that. Like, that's a valid way to play it. And people got mad at him about that. And it does sound like, and I haven't played the Erdtree DLC yet, but it does sound like that DLC is definitely, or at least appears to be, the hardest DLC they've ever made. And they're unapologetic about that. They wanted it to be the hardest DLC they ever made, and especially the optional bosses it has.
Yeah.
You know, you could beat the main quest, and those bosses seem to be more in line with the original game, but they have all these optional ones that just feel impossible, and people get really mad about it. And obviously, they've all been beaten; they're not actually impossible. I think it's fine for games like that to target the super difficult stuff and appeal to a very specific crowd. What I hate that comes out of the conversation is things like, and I talked about this on social media, like if you use guides, you're getting like a lesser experience. And I think all of us, I think video games is a very personal experience for many people. And when it's personal, I don't think anyone can really tell someone how they should enjoy a game, because how you enjoy it doesn't mean that's how they will enjoy it.
Yeah.
There are people that are actually really mad about the difficulty that love the original, because to them, some of the difficulty, it's so hard, it's now not fun. And when they beat the boss, they don't feel a sense of achievement. They feel a sense of relief that they are done with the fight. And that's not a good feeling. That means you didn't have fun. That's the opposite of fun. And so here's the thing. FromSoft has made it very clear what they're going to be doing. They're always going to be making super, super damn difficult games. And it's weird when we're talking about it from like the Nintendo side, because like, hey, Nintendo's games are not that difficult. They have some challenging, levels and stages and all that, but compared to what's happening with FromSoft, it's nothing. I think the last Nintendo, gosh, what was the last Nintendo game I really, really struggled with? I mean, Zelda 2 is one of my favorite Zelda games ever, and a large part of that's because how difficult the damn game is.
Same.
That was like the Dark Souls of the era.
I remember the final boss of Metroid Dread being much more difficult than the rest of that game.
Yeah, the final boss was a pretty steep jump in difficulty.
I also remember the Elite Four in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl was way harder than the rest of that game.
Yeah, I don't know. I cheesed that. People traded me 100 level Pokemon, and I just wrecked it because I needed to be done with that game. That game sucked. Sorry. I didn't even like the original, so I didn't know what I was thinking. Well, I told everyone I would give the remakes a try, and they just no. Anyways, yeah. So like the difficulty is. There's a point to try to make games accessible. Like there's people who wish Tears of the Kingdom would have that master mode in it, right? So you can get that extra challenge. Even though the challenge that the master mode added in Breath of the Wild to me really wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, maybe the regenerating health is maybe like the biggest thing, but for the enemies, but even then, like you can make the game more difficult without that. Try 3 heart runs and you do naked runs and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of think that there's really no right or wrong answer. I think the debate just rages on because everyone likes different things from their games. And the hardest thing is when you love the original version of a game and then some extra content comes out and that extra content ends up taking away what was so enjoyable that first time around, and taking difficulty to what some people, I mean, look, I've watched some of the boss fights. Yeah. They did some things with the angles and the camera angles and the corridors that like you die. And they said this in one of their interviews, like, hey, when you die, you're supposed to learn from that death. Well, what's frustrating some people with it is that they're not learning why they died. They don't even know what happened because the camera angle was so bad. They didn't even see what the hell happened.
Welcome to Dark Souls 1. Welcome back, Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, going back to Dark Souls. But the angle was so bad. You don't even know what you did wrong.
That was a common thing, like during the early 3D games.
Yep.
Yeah, before we had the twin sticks, and even then, the early twin stick days weren't necessarily great.
Yeah.
But in a game where it's already intentionally insanely difficult, and then because of the room you're in, the camera angles are so horrible. I think that's really what's probably frustrating some people. But here's the thing: like, there's a place for all of these types of games, and it's very obvious. Anything FromSoft makes, just expect it to be hard as balls, and you're either going to be really into that or you're not. If it's anything from Nintendo, it's probably not going to be super difficult. There might be some difficult moments, especially if you want to 100% in their collectathon games and stuff like that. But the example, you want to beat every single stage in Mario Maker 2 online, good luck. Good luck. There's some
Yeah.
pro levels crap you're gonna have to good freaking luck. That is some challenge, but yeah, it's I don't know, man. Like I just hate as someone who's on the other side that like I'm not really into like super difficult games. I like a challenge, but I don't. Maybe because I'm older now and have 3 kids, I don't want to take 60 hours to beat one boss. I just don't. That to me is a significant waste of valuable time in my life as I got older. Maybe if I was in my early 20s, I might be like, I got all the time in the world. I ain't got that kind of time anymore, man. That's 60 hours. That's a couple days of my life. I got things I got to be doing. I can't just. I gotta feel like I'm making progress. I don't want to feel like, oh, I just beat one boss, just so I could play like another hour of the game and play another boss and be stuck for 60 hours. So, as someone who's on the other side of the conversation of like, I like difficulty options. I like difficulty sliders. I don't know that I necessarily like some of the things Nintendo does where there are some of their games that I already don't think are that difficult. But if you die a certain number of times, they just like give you invincibility and let you just auto beat the level. Happens in some of the Mario side scrolling games. It's kind of funny. I'm like, man, come on now. Don't make it that easy on the kids. Come on.
The white Tanuki suit.
Yeah, like it's fine. So I just think that we need to be in this whole debate more respectful of each other's opinions, because all of the opinions that people have on this topic are very personal. It's very personal, and we keep trying to push those opinions on others, being like, you need to be this, or you need to be that, or you need to think this way or that way. And it's like, no. That's how you are. They're allowed to be different. I just don't think it's ever going to stop. Like the next time FromSoft drops another game, the whole debate's going to happen again. Or you know, say a new IP comes from Nintendo and it ends up being surprisingly difficult. People are going to be like, "Oh man, is this too hard for Nintendo?" Nah, Nintendo fans can handle it. But you know, like people wonder, is Elden Ring held back, you know, by the difficulty? Could it reach an even bigger audience if it toned it back just a little bit? And it's like, I just don't think they care.
I don't think they care either, because that's their vision, that's their direction, that's what they want to do.
Yeah,
I
So
feel
that's my
like
thoughts.
I feel like they should, people who are arguing about this, specifically those that want games like easier, should look at difficult games more like a genre of game itself, because it's like if you don't like games that are super difficult, then you just need to come to the conclusion that I don't like super difficult games. Like if you're not a fan of like platformers, for instance, you're not going to say, oh, they should stop making platform games altogether. Like I hate them. Like you're just going to move on and play the games that you like. I feel like it's almost gotten to that point, especially with the Souls games, that like their whole reputation is being difficult, that like it is almost sort of like a subcategory of games. And it's like if you don't like them, that's totally fine, but like you just have to admit that you don't like that kind of game and move on. Like I think the quote from the From Software president was like
Miyazaki,
perfect. Yeah, Miyazaki. I think that was just perfect, because it's like if we tone back the game, that takes away what makes this game. And it's like that's the whole point. So yeah, I think that summed it up really well.
Let me offer a slightly different perspective, and this is as a Souls fan. Dark Souls 1, Elden Ring, and Bloodborne are 3 of my favorite games I've ever played. I like Bloodborne so much it's not even funny. All right, but
We need a remaster. We need
Still
it.
waiting for that. Yeah, the remaster.
hey, please,
I'm sure you are.
please. But my opinion on the Souls games is that Miyazaki, the FromSoft team, should do what they want. They should make the games that they want. That is, I'm not taking that away from them. But to offer a slightly different perspective is I do not like hard games. I play almost every game I can on one of the easiest difficulties. I don't usually do it on story difficult, but I do not do it on easy. I'll do it on normal. I frankly, and I know this is ridiculous, I honestly just do not like being challenged too much in my games. If I'm dying more than a couple of times and I'm having to repeat areas, I'm like, this is not enjoyable. This is hurting my experience. There's something about the FromSoft games where I'm like, okay, I can get over that. But I think it's because the difficulty, and I think this gets obscured in the conversation about FromSoft games, the difficulty is absolutely an appeal to those games, but I do not think it is the appeal of those games. I think that those games have a lot more to offer than just being difficult 3D character action games, whatever, not character action, but 3D action combat games, because the world design, the lore, the exploration, these are the things that I like most about those games. The combat, it's good. The bosses, they're fun fights. But I love existing in these worlds. I love going around every nook and cranny. I love finding how the pathways interconnect and what item did what from what boss on the other side of the map. There is an appeal to these games that is not about the difficulty. And even though I do want the FromSoft team to do what they do because they make some of my favorite games of all time, I would champion as a fan for there to be more options in those games, because I believe that more people could appreciate those games for their elements that aren't solely about the difficulty, and learn about the worlds, learn about how intricately these worlds are designed. And unfortunately, the difficulty gets in the way of many people experiencing that, which I think is a real shame, because I finished Bloodborne, I finished Dark Souls, and I sit back, I'm like, whatever game I play next is not going to be on the level of these games. They are just on such another level of care and quality. And the difficulty, it just dominates the conversation about these games. And I think that's unfortunate, because I think there's so much more to be appreciated about them. And that's is coming from someone who loves Souls games, but does not like difficult games. I'm a walking contradiction.
Yeah, you raised a lot of good points too, because we have to look at the reason why do people want to play these games, right? And it's more than just the challenge. Like there's a group of people that love the challenge, right? Yeah. But there's also a group of people who want to play Elden Ring for everything that you just said, and they're willing to play the game and possibly somewhat suffer through the difficulty to enjoy everything else, right?
Yeah.
Like everything else is going to outweigh how hard this game is. And for some, they enjoy the world so much and everything else that they're willing to take on that difficulty and maybe do something, like you said, like you don't normally play really hard games, but you're willing to for everything else that you get.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I get that, because I don't seek out like crazy hard games, but if the game's really good, I'll rise up to the challenge and do it, because I want to see the game, but I don't seek them out. I don't seek it at all. But if the game's good enough, I'm there. What do you think, John?
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying I am an Elden Lord. I beat Elden Ring to death, and my one platinum trophy is Bloodborne. So
nice, that's a good platinum.
I've been playing Soulsborne games for a long time, and I've started the DLC. I think I'm like 2 main bosses in, and it is hard. It is definitely difficult. But I was expecting that. I will say, like, I don't think an easy mode or an easier mode is going to ruin the game. Like I think Miyazaki might even said that, not in these quotes, but I think he even said, like, if we put a lower difficulty, it would ruin the game. And I just don't agree. I think giving more people access to those worlds, because they're so incredible. Like, if you've never played Bloodborne, you should. It's one of the best experiences you'll ever have. It's such a cool atmosphere, and all of their games are like that. But I also want to come at it in the perspective of Nintendo, and I hate Kirby. I hate Kirby games so much. And Yoshi, because they're too easy. Like, they're way too easy. So why not give us the option of a harder difficulty in games like Kirby and Yoshi, and even like Pokemon? I know you could make them more difficult for yourself, but why not just have the option to scale the difficulty? Like, Nintendo games are too easy. Even Mario, to an extent, like, I know there are difficult levels, but Mario Wonder, for example, I didn't find that challenging at all, not until the very last level. So I would love to see hard modes in Nintendo games.
I would too, for sure. Like I remember, and I'm gonna, obviously I'm gonna date myself here, but I remember buying at Best Buy the day it came out Yoshi's Story on 64.
That's
Not reading any reviews. Obviously, this is back in the day. I hadn't read anything. I just knew I wanted to pick up this game, and this was like the first Yoshi game to come out after what some would call a Yoshi game, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. Some call it a Mario game. Don't even want to get into that debate right now. But I picked that game up, and my God, guys, I had the game beat so quick. I can't remember how quick it was, but it might
the
have
game's
been
like 2 hours long.
I think it was. I think it was. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say. I think it was about 2 hours, and just like, dude, this sucks. Just because that's not what I was expecting.
That game also does weird
it was
things
so
where like
easy.
you can't die and you can't get through the level until you do certain things with it's not based on like reaching the end of the level, it's based on like the fruit that you collect. That's a weird game.
Yeah, it is. It is like along those lines, I think, of what John was saying with Yoshi and Kirby. And I think I would actually enjoy those games more if they did have a difficulty option and allowed me to increase the difficulty. Oddly enough, I would actually like it in that scenario. So that you bring up a good point there, John, for sure. Eric, what do you think?
If I'm a game dev, I'm salivating. There's holes that people can fill. I mean, people want an easier Souls game. Create one.
Another crab treasure.
Exactly.
Yeah, another Ghost Treasure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
You wanted more difficult platformer? You see people clamoring for one? Go for it.
Yeah.
So honestly, there's places that I think if game devs are really looking for something, scroll Twitter. I mean, people are clamoring for X, Y, and Z. Go create it.
Yeah. That's how the game genre became so big. I mean, people were like, look, the challenge of being punished can be very, very appealing. And those games are massive in their own way.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. For me, it's I like the difficulty enough where if I'm dying, quite a bit, I feel like I can actually, achieve it. But it's one of those that you get beat down, you get punched in the head, punched in the face multiple times. And you just feel like you have no way of actually making it through it. That's when the game kind of sucks. But when you get so close and then you die because you realized, oh crap, I made this move, I should have did this, then I feel like, okay, next time I can get it, we're good. But yeah, I mean, difficulties is your own choice and stuff. So
I agree, and that is one thing I really liked about his quote about the difficulty and whatnot, but specifically about when you die in the game and how their goal is to basically, if you die, you're going to learn something from it. So when you go back to fight the boss again, you can take something that you learned and try something a little different.
Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm just dumb. I don't learn anything when I die in those games.
Well, you can't, obviously we know like you can't go fight the boss the same way you did if you only took like this much of the health bar down and you died in like 10 seconds. You're like, okay, let me look at my equipment. Like this boss was hitting me with a fire blade. Okay. Do I have any fire resistant armor in my inventory? You're like, those are like, I played Elden Ring. I have the platinum trophy on it. I played the DLC for 12 hours on Saturday, possibly 13. I don't know, 12, 13. It was all day. And I had so much fun getting lost in this game. I was very excited. I downloaded it right at 9:00 on Friday. I wanted to stay up late, but I couldn't because I'm just an old man and I had to go to bed. But I got up early because that's what old people do is they get up early and start gaming. And I was up at like 5:30 going pretty much all day. I had a blast. For me, I didn't think it was too hard, but I say yet because even though I spent 12 hours, I spent 12 hours just exploring the world and trying to find, what is it, John? They're called the
Shadow Tree.
shadow
they're
tree.
called the Shadow Tree
Fragments.
fragments. They're not called Skidoo fragments, apparently.
Yeah, so I was looking for those because those will, what is it, increase your power and also the resistance, the
Yeah,
damage
decrease
resistance.
the damage.
Yeah, so I'm looking for that. I'm like, all right, let's attack this smart. Let's try and see if I can get a handful of these before I start fighting bosses versus maybe not finding any. Because once you apply these, it permanently increases your damage resistance, or it improves it and improves your damage. So I was looking for those, and I didn't have a super hard time knowing that. But if this is Elden Ring, I know I'm going to run into some trouble. There's no doubt about it. I'm never going to breeze through a game like this. They are really, really challenging, but I do respect what he said in that when you overcome that challenge, the feeling that you have when you do finally beat a game like this, that's not normally a game you play. Like, you normally don't seek out these really difficult games, but when you do, that's special. It's a special feeling. It's similar to like when I beat Zelda 2, honestly, for the first time. It was a game that I loved so much as a kid, but it was like so hard. And then I went back to it as a teenager, and it was like it's kind of one of those bucket list games where I'm like, one day I'm going to beat this game. One day it's going to happen. And then you sat down, you put your mind to it, and then you actually do it. It feels really good. So I get that aspect of it too. And again, I think there's no wrong answer here. I really don't, because, Nate kind of touched on it a little bit. The way we experience games is very, very personal. So I know there's tons of discourse on the internet with this, and I'd like to see everyone be respectful, but we're never going to see that. We don't live in that world. People are divided on a lot of things. This is just one of them. But people are very heated about it. And it's like, let's just all experience games the way we want to and enjoy it. That's how it was growing up, right? I don't remember any of this kind of stuff before social media. We just all enjoyed games. If a game was hard, you tell your friend, yeah, this game's really hard, man. Like, good luck. That's it.
What I think is cool about what From Software does, this is just a tangent on them, and Elden Ring, is I played the DLC for a bit, and I got stuck like on a boss, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna go somewhere else for a while, and then I'll come back.
That's what's great about Elden Ring.
Yeah, like I think I did 2 of the main bosses, but I got stuck on the second one. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I found a completely new area by just like exploring. And there's a bunch of upgradable materials and stuff. So there's a lot of things you could do to make it, I wouldn't say easier, but just kind of, you can manage the difficulty more by just exploring.
Yeah, like making adjustments along the way, exploring, finding better equipment. There's definitely a lot of new armor and weapons in the DLC. As far as DLC is concerned, like, this is huge. It's a huge expansion. It's really cool. Like, the amount of hours you can spend in this is nice. I really respect it. As a gamer, it's like, man, this is a lot of content, and it's good content. You're like, yes, the game's hard, but again,
it's like a brand new game. It's like, I think they said it was supposed to be the size of like the first area in Elden Ring, but it's actually like 3/4 of the map of the original Elden Ring map.
Yeah. And John, I think what you mentioned that you got to like past 2 bosses or something. I think I'm right around there. I done 2 or 3. And so I've barely scraped the surface, but I had so much fun at it. I don't feel like I didn't get anywhere. It's not like playing, like Grand Theft Auto for 12 hours and you're just screwing around, jumping off ramps and messing with people, the whole time in the game. Like, I actually felt like I was getting somewhere in the game and seeing a lot of it, but I wasn't getting, I guess, far narratively or with the bosses, but I had a great time. So this poll, guys, that we just put up here, you guys see the picture. This was a poll on pushsquare.com that I thought was pretty interesting. And, they just asked everyone, generally speaking, are you put off playing intentionally difficult games? And I'm curious, if you were to vote on this, where would each of you vote? So, Tucker, you want to go first there?
Yeah, I think I would probably go with the one that has 27%. Yep, my free time is limited, and I'd rather make clear progress. Now, I have to be completely transparent. My free time is not particularly limited. I just graduated from college last year. I do not have a full-time job, and I use a lot of my time playing video games, primarily because I foresee myself being someone who is a video game archivist or an educator in games history or something like that. And so I use a lot of my time to play a variety of games for learning about the history of the medium and learning about different corners of the industry and just trying to learn as much as I can about video games. And that hands-on experience for me is very important. And so it's not about my free time being limited. It is about making that clear progress. When I am playing a game, the reason I drop down the difficulty is because I think it's very important to see games to the end, to have hands-on experience with them, and to make sure that I'm experiencing the game's gameplay and the atmosphere and things like that. But it's not for me. As I said earlier, it's not about challenge. I steer away largely outside of Souls games from challenge in my games. And so I prefer to play games on easier difficulties simply because it allows me to get them over with faster. Now that maybe sounds like I'm just want to play less of the game or something, but it's more of I crave variety in my game playing diet. And if I can play 4 really cool games or 4 very different games in the amount of time it would take me to play one very challenging game or one very long game, part of the reason I don't play a ton of big RPGs is they just take a lot of time. I will do whatever I can to make a game lengthwise and difficulty-wise digestible so that I can add it to my memory bank. I'm like, all right, I played that game. I know that game. I played it on easy, but I am familiar with this game. And I can move on to something else that will educate me about a different area of the industry. And so, as I said, I stay away from difficulty. Souls games are something very special. And so as you said, Steve, I think
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, I see Thunder Stash Gaming on there. I'm like, I'm not calling you Stash.
You got it right. You got it right, Steve.
You said earlier that like making an exception for Souls games. Like, this is so special. These games are so good that I just go into them regardless. But for most games, I'm like, yeah, I want to play on easy difficulty. I want to play on low difficulty because I just want to be in the world of this game. I don't necessarily want it to push back against me. So that's my choice.
Great. Yeah. No wrong answer ever here. But I think the way you explained it was great, and it makes a lot of sense. And all these options that they gave you, I think are all great ways of kind of explaining where you fit in there.
Yeah. There's not an option for, my free time isn't limited, but I'd rather make progress.
Yeah, right. Eric, you want to go next there?
Yeah, I think I'm actually in that category too, but because mine is
of course
limited.
I'm a very rare case.
That's very true. But I mean, I don't mind a hard game, if I know it's hard, and I have time to sit down and actually play it. But a lot of times, like, I'd much rather just sit down and know I can make some good headway and feel like I accomplished something during my limited gaming sessions, very, very limited gaming sessions. But to this point, I am at the point of trying to go be Ganon in Tears of the Kingdom now. So I got all the side quests done. I got all the side adventures done. So I'm to that point. So that's the next big step here. And once I get an actual gaming session, that's the next thing that's happening. So
that's a pretty solid fight. That last fight against actual Ganon, that's a pretty solid boss fight. I like that fight a lot.
Hoops, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, it kind of depends on the situation, but I'm kind of in between. My free time is limited. I'd rather make clear progress, and I prefer having difficulty because for me, it's sort of like I do like a challenge when one is presented to me in a game, because there is that feeling of like satisfaction when you overcome it. But I very much just, especially in recent years, as I'm sure all of you have felt as we all get older, like your time is limited, you have other things going on, and it's just like I feel like those moments where you get stuck in a game and you encounter a difficult moment, they're all the more taxing when you know you only have X amount of hours to play. So what I usually end up doing is like if I get to a point in a game that's difficult that I like just can't breeze through, I will try and figure it out on my own, and I like make a clear point to just try and like tough it out. But then if a certain amount of time passes and I still can't get past it, what I usually do is I'm just like, okay, I'm looking up a guide. I'm like looking how to do this best way. Like I'm just getting through this because I don't care. Like I just want to get through. So I'm a little of both. I like to give it a shot, but if it like kicks my butt, I'll just use the cheat code and just like get through it.
Yeah.
So
It's fair. Nate, you want to go ahead?
No.
Shut down.
All right, then I want to hear from John.
Yeah, like I said, I think I prefer having difficulty settings. I mean, my free time's limited as well, but I do this weird thing where so I'm a tax accountant and I have busy seasons throughout the year, and the way I de-stress is by playing Souls games during busy season. So I don't know why my brain just enjoys, like, it kind of takes me away from the stress of my everyday life, and I can focus on the game itself and being able to overcome those obstacles. It's very satisfying. But I think I'm the same with like Tucker. I don't typically play hard games besides Souls games.
Yeah.
I do like a challenge. Yeah, I do like a challenge, and I don't know, something about Souls games that are just kind of special, and they're a different experience than like even games like Doom Eternal or Doom 2016. I think that they're pretty difficult, and I wasn't expecting them to be as difficult as it is, and it kind of turned me off from it. Yeah. But I don't think they're as difficult as a Souls game, so I don't know.
I think for Souls games, I think it's about the difficulty matching with a really fun sense of community. That's another big part of why I like those games so much, is there's such a strong community aspect, not only through the messages that can be left in the world in each of those games, but the Souls community is so dedicated to getting guides up and making lore conversations and having and summoning a friend and summoning someone to help you beat a boss. I found such a welcoming community there where it for me, it's about.
You found a welcoming community by saying you summon. Oh my goodness.
No. I mean, just I summon like my friends. I don't summon like randoms or anything, but like asking people like, oh, what did you do here? Like, where can I find this item? There's so many great videos and guides and lore walkthroughs and all of that. It's very much about community through the difficulty for me.
I agree with you on all that with the Souls games. And going into the DLC, I do like kind of looking up things you should know, kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
Before you like, because if you know these things and you actually go out and do them, I'm probably going to have a better experience. And through looking stuff like that up, I did find some cool websites. Like, I'm sure you're familiar with, what is it? Fextra?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
They have a lot of guides. Wow. They have like a whole wiki where you could filter.
Yeah. So I have my laptop out as I'm playing it, and I have the interactive map up on my laptop, so I can really kind of see where I'm going and just make sure that, hey, when I'm exploring this area, just know that there are going to be some things here I need to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
I'm not reading a guide saying, hey, you need to go this way, or watching a video and making sure I know exactly where to go. It's more or less like, if I'm going to spend time in this area of the map, I want to make sure I get everything I can that's available to me now. That's not like locked behind a side quest where I got to go talk to an NPC or something. I want to make the most of my time, basically make every virtual step count, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I did find a welcoming community actually through the Souls games. And you mentioned the messages in the game. I think that's so cool because it's funny. Sometimes people will leave messages that are just talking about the world, like, hey, this is a great view. And I may be thinking to myself as I'm approaching that area, and I've done this where I'm like, man, that's a really good view. Like the graphics look good. And then I'll read the message and someone says the same thing. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, this is cool. And then sometimes
it's like tri-finger butthole. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Or someone
wondrous
will say,
chest ahead.
yeah, like watch out as you're going down the stairs, or watch the corner here because someone's gonna jump out. And most of the times they do, but then sometimes there's people who just mess with you in the game too, and are dishonest. And I
Try
think that's
jumping.
funny. Yeah. I think that's really cool. Like that's a really cool part of the Souls community. And that's something I really like. And I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that in other games. I wouldn't be. I think it's a pretty cool way to bring a community together, and it's fun. I like that aspect of it. I would say that, as far as this poll, I voted for the 15%. The nah, I tend to embrace the challenge, and I voted that way because it asks if I'm like put off by playing intentionally difficult games. It's like, no, I'm not put off by it, because if it's a good game, I'm gonna play it regardless. Like with Elden Ring, I'm playing that because it's a great game, so I'm not put off by it. But again, like I said before, I'm not going to seek it out. And at the same time, the other 15% there that I kind of prefer having difficulty settings. I do for a variety of reasons, though, right? Like if it's a Yoshi or Kirby game that's very easy, I would like to turn it up. And if it's a crazy difficult game and I've expanded all options, it would be nice to be able to at least drop the difficulty down just to get past the one part that for some reason I'm struggling with, that maybe other people aren't, because I want to see the rest of the game. I don't want to stop here. And like, I'll give an example. I was playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? I put in a little over 200 hours, which is crazy. And I was trying to get past the post-game content. I think it's what is it, the VR fights? Are you guys familiar with that?
I didn't play that game, but
all right. This is a very hard part in the game. It's post-game content. Do I need to do it? No, but I was having so much fun with the game that I decided to play it. And honestly, I just couldn't get past, I think it was the 6th VR fight that's post-game. It's very hard. I watched videos of people do it online, and they seem to have no problem with it. I use these same characters. I tried to do the same stuff and emulate it, and I just couldn't. And so when I play a game like Elden Ring and I'm getting past like these parts that people are struggling with, I look at that. I'm like, I can get past this part, but when it comes to this game, all these people can get past this part and I can't. And that's just how it is. That's just gaming, man. Like some things are more difficult for me than other things, and that goes for everybody, which is why I wish everyone would just respect how people feel about game difficulty, right?
What I love about Elden Ring and this whole DLC thing is only like 40% of people that bought Elden Ring can even access the DLC right now, because they didn't beat the bosses that you need to get there. So it's so funny that all this like discourse is happening around it, and it's only, people might have found Elden Ring too hard in the first place to try to even get to the DLC. And now they're saying the DLC is too hard. So it's like, I don't know what people are expecting.
I thought that was pretty funny too, because I saw that tweet go out. I think the tweet was just circulating about a week before the DLC. They're like, hey, this is the percentage of people who what was it? You had to beat a certain boss, right?
You had to beat Moog the Blood Omen, which
Yeah.
is an optional boss, pretty late game.
So they looked at what the PlayStation trophies, because it's a trophy. They looked at Steam achievements, and I presume the Xbox achievements, and they were able to come up with a number and figure out that, hey, like 60% of the people can't even play the DLC if they buy it right now. So that's why they put out that basically PSA announcement, like, hey, guys, just so you know, you need to do this in order to even play this DLC. So we're letting you know a week early. If you haven't done it, dive back into the game and, work off your rust, because you're going to need to, because the DLC is hard, but also because you won't be able to access it. I thought that was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, and I bought it I played it on PlayStation, but I bought it on Steam because I wanted to play it on Steam Deck, which it does run very well on Steam Deck, so I think it would work on the Switch too. And I wasn't at Moog yet, and I spent like the whole last weekend trying to get to Moog and trying to beat him. So it's a fun time. And then I always like they don't have any achievements in the DLC, and that was another discourse that's been going around. And I wish they did have, because I like seeing like, only 35% of people beat this boss. Like, I feel superior. I'm better than them. So I wish they had achievements in it too.
I can agree with you on that aspect. Like, I do appreciate trophies, achievements. I'm not a trophy hunter, and I have a very specific way I go about this. Is that if I'm playing a game, say I'm halfway through and I'm enjoying this game so much that I don't want it to end. I want to see everything this world has to offer. That's when I decide, you know what? Let me go look at a trophy guide. Maybe I want to start kind of aiming to
optimizing.
to get all the trophies, because I know if I get all the trophies, I'm going to see everything in the game. It's like it's the modern day almost way of 100%ing a game versus like back in the day. You're playing, I don't know, Donkey Kong Country comes to mind as a game that showed your percentage. Or Banjo Kazooie, right? And that's a way to see everything. So if I really love a game, I'm going to do that. I never start a game and say, as it's installing in my PS5 or my Switch, that I'm gonna platinum this or 100% it.
Yeah.
It's always if, hey, you know what? I'm having a great time. I want to stay a little bit later tonight. I want to keep playing this game until the end. Is really what it comes down to.
I'm doing that right now with an Astrobot Rescue Mission on PSVR. That's just a great game, and I beat the final boss today. I am at 84% trophies. I have 4 optional challenges left, but they're required for the platinum, and they are so much harder than the rest of the game. And I'm just like, I have to. But I like the game. I'm so close. I'm so close. So obviously, occasionally, a little bit of challenge, I don't mind it. And I'm the same way with like collectathons and Metroidvanias. I love not platinuming, like 100%ing Metroidvanias. The Ori games, those were such great games to 100%. Pikmin 4 last year. I platinumed Spider-Man 2 last year. There's so many games that I just love 100%ing. And I'll do that. If a super hard part is in a game that I'm on the road to 100%ing, it's just that one last thing, I'll do it. I'll stick around. I'll stick through it. But yeah, it really is about the flow of the game for me. If a hard challenge is like early on in the game, or I'm not liking the game and I hit a hard point, I'm out. But if I'm loving a game, I'm all the way through it, and there's a hard part, I'm like, all right, you earned it. I'll stick around. Yeah. I'll stick around. I'll push through. You got me. That's a funny joke you pulled there, game. You got one really hard boss. Isn't that goofy? But yeah, it's really about the vibes of it. How I'm feeling at the time.
I did that with Dragon Quest 11S. I was having so much fun playing that game. It was the same thing. About halfway through, I was like, you know what? I'm going to platinum this. because this game is amazing. I'm having such a great time, and some developers do, I think, a really good job with the platinums and not making it like too insane. Yeah, I know there's some platinums out there where you got to beat the game like multiple
Yeah.
times. It's
I
like,
can't do multiple playthroughs.
I don't want to do that. Yeah, because I'm a variety gamer.
Well, how did you get how did you get the Elden Ring one then?
Who's that?
You. Yeah, didn't you say you had the platinum in Elden Ring?
Yeah, no, I do, but I don't like playing games multiple times. Like the game that came to mind for me, I think it was Resident Evil Biohazard, the one that you can also play in VR.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at the trophy guide and seeing that you had to play through the game a lot. I think it was like 4 or 5 playthroughs, and one of them was a speed run. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm good. I'm gonna get what I can get.
That's a great game. I don't need to play it 4 times in a row.
Exactly. And so once I beat a game, I'm usually done for a long time. Like,
oh yeah, me too.
For instance, Paper Mario that just came out. I beat it when it came out on GameCube. I didn't touch it until the remaster came out, and I just 100% at that game. That was a great time, and I 100%ed it because I loved it so much. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I did not even come close to 100%ing the 1,000-Year Door when it came out. And I'm sure you guys know, if you've played the game, there is no percentage bar on there, but you know how to 100% the game because you end up getting the gold badge, which is what you have to do everything in the game that turns like Mario gold. His actual character palette turns gold. So I didn't have to do it, but I was like, you know what? I'm enjoying my time here. I'm just going to do it. So yeah, it seems like we all have different reasons for doing that. Did you guys have anything else you would like to add there before we jump into the last topic?
I think we're good.
All right.
Thoroughly covered that topic.
Yeah, I figured we'd all have a lot to say there. All right. So, a few weeks ago, we did our top 5 Switch games on the podcast. And I thought it would be fun to discuss our top 5 indie games and explain why.
Maybe.
And, I was just kind of looking at the calendar, and I got to say, the older you get, the truly, I feel like time goes by a lot faster. And by this time next Wednesday, 2024 quarter 2 is going to be coming to a close, and will officially be in quarter 3, which is hard to believe. But that also means we're that much closer to the Switch 2. So before Switch 2 becomes a focal point and Switch 1 inevitably takes a back seat, I think it'd be good to take a look back at all the amazing Switch 1 indie games we've received over the past 7 years. So we're going to give our top 5 indie games plus 1 hidden gem indie game. A game that maybe you think not everybody knows about, and you'd like for other people to experience, the joy that you had playing the game. So, I was making my list, guys. I'm gonna go last, but I gotta say, I was making it. I'm like, dude, I could do 25 of these easy. Like, I could make a video right here.
Yeah.
Start getting ideas because there's just so many great games. I will say, your picks, they don't have to be Switch exclusives. There's indie games that are on all consoles, but it's like, hey, the fact that I can play it portably gives the Switch version a nod. So who would like to take this first?
I'll go. I was thinking about this the whole time. Like, I was listening to all the other topics, but I'm like, oh man, there's so many indie games.
Yeah.
And I love indie games. I think I was on the episode with the top 5 Switch games.
I think you were.
And I put an indie game in there. So that will definitely in my top 5. But I think I'm gonna go from like 5 to 1. Golf Story is probably my 5th favorite game. That game was, I think, near launch of the Switch. It was very early on in the Switch's life cycle, and I just loved it. It was so unique, and it's a golf RPG that I've been looking for. And then they dropped the ball with Sports Story. I think that was
Yep.
They hyped that up so much, and it just fell flat. So Golf Story is fantastic. I think everybody should check that out if they haven't. I'm gonna go with Shovel Knight with my next one. I actually backed Shovel Knight on Kickstarter for the Wii U version.
Sweet.
I don't know how many years ago now. Well, I guess it's been their 10th anniversary was recently. Am I remember that correctly? Shovel Knight's 10th anniversary.
Was it 10th or? Yeah, it was 10th.
It was,
2014. Yeah, because
they did that stream like what?
Yacht Club
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the stream. 10 years. Hard to believe.
Yeah, so Shovel Knight, I played that on Wii U, was phenomenal, and then I got I forget what the Treasure Trove.
Yes.
On the Switch.
Yeah.
It was a launch title.
Mm-hmm.
And I played through all the campaigns. Like, they're really good with Spectre Knight, King Knight. Like, they're all unique and different. Shovel Knight's just a fantastic IP. I'm a little annoyed that they haven't released like a sequel.
Yeah.
Like, I know they have. Like, I've played Shovel Knight Dig. I played the puzzle game. I forget what that one's. Pocket Dungeon. I played those. They are very good, but I would just really love another Shovel Knight platformer.
Yeah.
They announced a deluxe edition.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool thing, actually. It's like all the different updates and content from like all the different versions they've done over the course of the last 10 years put into one like physically released game. It's really good for preservation. Like even the stereoscopic 3D they added for the 3DS version, and like the co-op, and like they're doing like all sorts of cheats and stuff. I'm actually really happy they're doing that. It's a little bit weird because it's just that game, even though the game usually now comes with all the other side games in it. But for Shovel Knight, which is one of the most iconic games of the last 10 years, release a definitive edition of that. Absolutely. They just care so much. They put 170% into Shovel Knight.
They did. I'm a huge
fan. I remember backing that, and it took a long time for it to actually come out. Like, after the Kickstarter was over, it took years for it to come out. But Shovel Knight's fantastic. My next one, I think I'm gonna go with Cuphead. Just the art style is so unique. It reminds me of a Souls type game. It's more difficult, which you would never think when you look at that game. You're like, oh, that's like it's a cartoony game. That's a Nintendo game. There's no way it's going to be hard. And then you just get destroyed in every boss fight. Yeah. But Cuphead, fantastic, and the DLC is really good too. Next one, Vampire Survivors. I know it's probably like pretty cliche, but I could just play that game for hours and hours and hours with no. I love all the DLC. I played the Contra stuff recently, and just everything with that game. It's $5. Like, you can't ask for a better deal for $5.
I've yet to play Vampire Survivors. I've heard obviously so many great things, and of course when the Contra DLC got announced, I'm a big Contra fan, so I was like, oh my god, just another reason why I got to jump into this game.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. $5, and then the DLC is like $2 every pack. So,
which is cool.
It's phenomenal,
especially with the price of DLC today.
And then my number one, and I think this is actually my game of the year this year. I don't see it being topped. That's Balatro.
Oh,
or
dude,
however you say it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think I've been saying Balatro. It wrong.
That's what I
said. But a roguelike poker game, like, come on.
I beat my first run like a week ago. I felt so good.
Yeah,
I haven't played it that much, but
I actually played it more. I've played it more than Tears of the Kingdom. I have like close to 100 hours into it right now.
Wow.
I unlocked like all the decks. I've done like the hardest difficulty you could do. That is just a turn your brain off, and it's so good. Like, if you guys haven't played it.
What's your go-to jokers?
A go-to joke, anything that has like a multiplier. So the one where if you skip a blind, it gives you a multiplier.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know the names of them, but
right, yeah.
And then I don't know. There's like an achievement to score 100 million points in one hand, and I'm like, I don't even know what you would do for that. And
You'd have to handle like a royal flush with the multiplier for your suit and plus some other multiplier. Yeah,
I was looking up guides on how to do it because I'm like, I don't know how to do it. There's no way I'm gonna figure this out on my own. And there's a Joker where every king gives you a 1.5 times multiplier.
Mm-hmm.
And then like if you make a steel card in your deck, it's another 1.5 times. So what they're saying is you have to have a ton of kings that are steel cards. And I don't know. I've tried it multiple times. Nowhere close. But Balatro's phenomenal.
I haven't played it yet. Of course, again, I've heard great things, and I did pre-order the physical version.
Oh, I did see that. I did see that because I wonder if I missed my chance because I do want like the physical cards.
Yeah. It's still available.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna get that because it is just that good.
Great picks.
Yeah, great picks. What's your last one?
My hidden gem. There's a game called Cobalt Core.
I haven't even heard of that.
It's a roguelike. I mean, like all indie games are roguelike, but it's a roguelike ship builder.
Oh,
it's pretty cool. It's like pixel art, and you do runs and you take on like space pirates, and it's very addicting. Like a run could probably take like 45 minutes to an hour, but you get to build out your ship. It's very good.
That sounds very interesting, and that's just another reason why I'm happy indies exist, because what you just described could never get made. It would never get made by a big AAA developer, and I love that we have indies because we get all this great variety. And I've never heard of that game, but I'm writing down. I have a Word doc open. I'm putting all your games on here because if there's anything I haven't played, it's going on my list. Because I got to play these games. If you guys are standing by them, I want to check them out. So I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, I know, and I just there's so many. Like I definitely probably missed a bunch, and I'm sure you guys will probably say them because they're pretty well known, but they're so good.
That's actually why I wanted to go last, because I wrote down my list, but then I started writing some honorable mentions, and before it, I had like 15 on there. I'm like, you know what?
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna go last, and I'm gonna try to give some games that no one else has said. Yeah, that way we just get some more variety for everybody to be able to check some games out. So hopefully that'll work out. Who would like to go next?
Hoops, you got a list?
I kind of do, but I want to hear other people's lists first.
I mean, I can go.
All right, Eric, take it away.
I mean, so I'm going to change mine a little bit here because I don't play a whole lot of games, so I don't have, a ton of games on my list. So what I'm going to do is I have 4 that I've played, one that I haven't played but looks fun, and then my most anticipated coming up.
Sure.
Cool.
So my 4 that I have played that I like a lot are and forgive me if I say a non-indie game because I'm not a gamer.
There's Dave's a diver on there. Get out of here.
Oh God, look at this guy.
Yeah, right. Cuphead is one of mine. That game is fantastic. That is one of the ones that is difficult, but yet you still feel like you can actually beat it because you can.
Also, that soundtrack.
Oh,
I love the Cuphead soundtrack so much. Oh man.
And then TMNT Shredder's Revenge.
Right.
That was fun.
That's good.
I liked that was a fun game. Untitled Goose Game because you get to be a goose.
Oh yeah, Goose Game, absolutely.
Again.
Yep. My hidden gem and one of the ones that I played is Boomerang Fu. I know I've brought this up before, but that one is an absolute freaking blast. Nate and I, we played it during one of our streams, and we thought it was just going to be one of those throwaway games that just to kill time, but no, we both thoroughly enjoyed it. One One that I haven't played, but it looks like fun, was Trombone Champ.
Oh yeah,
It's funny as hell. I
Absolutely.
watched Game Grumps play it, and it's just funny. And then my most anticipated one would be the Plucky Squire.
sure. Looks
Oh
great.
yeah, can't
I
wait for
Yeah,
that.
that looks good.
Great
so
balls.
wanting to play that game. That game cannot come out fast enough. I just
Yeah.
want to see more of it.
I'm so mad Devolver didn't mention it once this summer.
Right?
They had a showcase. That game's supposed to come out this year. What
Yeah.
are you doing? Where's the game?
Right. Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my list there.
I agree with you on that. With Plucky, I was watching, of course, their presentation and was hoping to see something there.
Yeah.
Good list, man. You had one of my games on there that I was going to say, which was Shredder's Revenge. And God, growing up playing Turtles, seeing the hell that some of these developers have put the Turtles through.
Yeah. Right.
My God, man, we went through some pretty bad Turtles games, especially during the I think during the PS2 to like the kind of 360 era. There was some tough Turtles games there. Like they just weren't very good. And to see it have a complete return to form and handled with so much care the way it did, I was thoroughly impressed. And the online is really fun, and Shredder's Revenge too. That was a good time. But yeah, great picks. And Boomerang Fu, guys, I have not played that yet, but I did want to say that they have a trial. Or is it not a trial? A demo.
Yep.
So there's a demo on the eShop. If you guys are interested in that, I did download the demo. I still need to play it, obviously. I was in the middle of playing Paper Mario when I downloaded it, so I will check it out now. But yeah, apparently it's very fun.
It is.
Right? It's very addictive.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool.
100%. And you can actually play bots and stuff too, which is it's fun. So you can actually enjoy the game by yourself playing against, I think it's like 4 to 6 bots. You can do 1 to 6 bots, 1 to 7 bots, because I think that you can do up to 8 players, something like that, 6 to 8 players total.
That's cool. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. You still want to hear more, or are you going to go, Hoops?
I think I can go.
All right, let's do it.
Eric
I've been waiting all
jogged my
night for
memory. So I definitely want to mention Plucky Squire 2 as the most anticipated because
Oh yeah.
like I wasn't even sure if I could say that as an indie game just because it looks that good. And I'm pretty at this point in my gaming life, I feel like I'm pretty set in my ways. Like I have my Zeldas, my Pokemon, my whatever. Like those games are my games and those are the ones I play. And I don't usually give a totally new game like a shake that often, but that game is like totally won me over with like it just oozes charm and like love and like passion. So I'm super excited for that one.
Agree.
As far as I'm gonna just kind of go all over the place. My favorite indie game, well, I've played Shovel Knight. I love Shovel Knight. My favorite overall though is probably Cuphead because that was like another one similar to Plucky Squire where I didn't really plan on playing it, and then I just picked it up and played it with a friend of mine. We played the co-op, and that was like playing co-op was like it was such a blast because not only was the game amazing, but it was like I hadn't had like a modern gaming experience like as a co-op game like that. Like that was like the first time I'd had a game like that, like experience like that in a while.
I never played that co-op because I thought I would get too frustrated with the other person.
No, like and like everyone mentioning that it was like Souls-like is totally true, but it was like the perfect level where it was just like, especially playing it co-op, it was just like you were dying to like, even when you died, you were just dying to get back to like the boss or whatever, so you could like, oh, we did this wrong, let's do this again on the next run. Like it was so much fun.
Right.
And then a couple others I wanted to mention. I haven't actually played these ones, but I have like looked into them and I've like talked about them with people. I've heard a lot of good things. So I just wanted to mention Cassette Beasts and Koromon. They're 2 Pokemon-like games.
Yeah.
And being a Pokemon YouTuber, I like obviously pay attention to this stuff. And I think like this generation in particular, especially with indies, has like given the chance for Pokemon like games to sort of exist to a more, I guess, available degree or bigger degree, to where it's not like they have existed before this, but there's been a lot of really cool ones this generation that have come out, and I think Cassette Beasts in particular is really like unique in the way that it kind of tries to tackle that. So those are two that I definitely plan on checking out, and I think you should check out if you haven't, because they definitely are pretty cool. So
I've heard good things about Cassette Beast.
yeah,
Haven't played it yet. Good things. I think it's on Game Pass.
Oh, cool.
Pretty sure I have Game Pass, so that would be a good one to get if you guys have Game Pass. Check it out. Don't quote me on it.
This is a Nintendo podcast. What are you talking about?
Can't mention that here.
Right.
Nate's gonna get demonetized.
Seriously. Okay,
All right.
Tucker, what you got?
Oh man! All right, it's time. I'm unleashing the beast. Let's talk about 5 indie games. Let's start with A Short Hike. That game is so good. You know what you love about Breath of the Wild? It's the music, it's the environment, it's the finding little collectibles, it's the climbing, it's the gliding. But imagine that all on a map that feels massive and expansive, but can be covered in the game can be easily beaten in 2 hours. But you can speedrun it, as I have, in like 6 minutes. That's the kind of game this is where it feels like you've got this open world, but in reality, it's so small and manageable. It's about a little penguin character trying to get to the top of the mountain. But you go around, you talk to little Animal Crossing type characters. It's got great writing. The movement is just so fluid. And you collect these little golden feathers around the environment where every time you grab one, it lets you add another flap to your jump so you can keep jumping up in the air. And you can get up to 20 of them. So you can just absolutely go. And it lets you climb even farther, like an upgrade to your stamina bar in Breath of the Wild. It's got amazing music. You can get a boat where you go around a boat on the water. It's just phenomenal. I can't recommend this game enough. It's got this art style unlike almost anything. It's kind of it's kind of based on like DS3, like you know what DS games look like when they're trying to do 3D. It's kind of like that, but like no one's making games like that now. So it's just gorgeous, amazing music. I can't say enough great things about it.
I just looked it up. I'm familiar with this game.
Yeah.
But my God, Google user reviews. I actually put some stock into this because I always said that I feel like if people took the time to write a review,
yeah,
I want to hear what they have to say. If like they normally don't do this, I'd be interested. 98% like it, and then just seeing from a glance, Steam ratings 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I give this game a 5 out of 5. It's one of my favorite games of all time.
It's awesome. So
yeah,
that's gonna get played for sure. I'll check that out.
And again, easily within 2 hours you can have the full experience. But it's also a game that rewards you like going back and doing it multiple times. And as I said, it's really fun to speedrun because the movement's just that good.
Yeah. All right.
Next up, SteamWorld Dig 2. The SteamWorld Dig games are such a great spin on the Metroidvania genre because in Metroidvanias, you're upgrading yourself, you're exploring a big map, but in SteamWorld Dig games, you're digging down into a well. And so you get to build your own path through this. But it also has the best gameplay loop ever, which is you go down and you're digging and you find some gold and you find some gems. You go back up to the surface, you sell it, you upgrade yourself, you go back down. Suddenly, the game just keeps on going and keeps on going, and you want to just continue that gameplay loop forever. Especially in Dig 2, the way that the upgrades allow you to traverse around the environment and unlock different areas and the way they synergize together. I think this is one of the most finely tuned and finely crafted games I've ever played. I think it's just absolutely phenomenal. It's one of those games that just begs for you to 100% because you just I just wanted to go through every single little nook and cranny in the environment and collect everything. And so I can't recommend that game enough, especially if you like Metroidvanias because it's such a different kind of game.
Yes.
Anyone played the Dig games here? SteamWorld Dig?
I really enjoyed that. I played them on the 3DS. Well, I don't know if Dig 2 was on 3DS, so I definitely played Dig 1.
Yeah,
I
that's a great game.
Played Heist. I'm excited for SteamWorld Heist 2. That looks like it's going to be really good. Then there's SteamWorld Quest.
Yeah.
That was like a deck building RPG. The SteamWorld games are really good. I do remember SteamWorld Dig 2 being like one of the highest rated games when it came out.
Yeah, I think it was 2017. If you like Dig 1, it's just Dig 1 but better. It's great. Next up, this is another like pretty popular one, but Stardew Valley. I mean, come on, man. Stardew Valley. I lost so much time to that game. I was the kind of guy that enjoyed Animal Crossing enough, like New Leaf. I played that game and I liked it, but something about Stardew Valley and the way in which it lets you have such control over your environment and the way that the days are so short, but there's so much to do. And it's just amazing pixel art, amazing music, fun writing for all the characters, just tons of little things to go for. And you can really just take it at your own pace. And if you like mining, go mining. If you like fishing, go fishing. It's one of those games where you just exist in the way that you want to. And it has an intoxicating gameplay loop. We're like, okay, all right, my this crop is gonna grow tomorrow, so I'll just play one more day. And then you harvest the crop and you start like, oh man, I got enough money. I can buy this upgrade that I've been waiting for. And the shop opens tomorrow, so just one more day. Just one more day. And suddenly it's 3 a.m. And you're like, oh God. Oh well. Hey, just one more day.
I've heard a lot of good things. I bought my lady a Animal Crossing Switch when it came out, and it was, of course, during the pandemic.
Yeah,
and she had gamed when she was a little bit younger, and I was like, oh, this would be cool. Maybe she'll get into it, right? And we start gaming together because, of course, I think every guy that plays video games would love to have a girlfriend that plays video games too. Yeah. And she, loved Animal Crossing. Loved it. Like, dude, totally addicted.
Oh man, I love that game so much. I love
and then
that
Stardew Valley was the next one for her because
totally.
There came a point where she's like, do you suggest anything else? And I was like, yeah. And I hadn't played Stardew Valley, but I have friends that have played it who don't normally play, I guess, those kind of games. Like, I had a friend who really loved Harvest Moon on Super Nintendo from back then, that version. And he told me, man, I got so addicted, like hundreds and hundreds of hours of playing Stardew Valley on his PC. And so I suggested that to her next, and she's still playing.
Yeah.
I suggested that like probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So heard great things. I don't want to get sucked in though.
No,
okay?
That's when you can appreciate from afar and be like, hey, I don't need to put a couple hundred hours into that.
Exactly. I don't have time for it, but I respect it.
Yep. Next up, now the original version of this game did not come out, or came out way before the Switch, but the re-release that they did a couple years ago includes so much new stuff and was released on Switch that I have to include it. And that is the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Stanley Parable is one of my favorite games ever. And then I found out that they were basically just doing a semi-sequel to this game. The Stanley Parable is video game commentary, meta commentary in the most endearing and comedic way you've ever experienced. The idea of simulated player choice and the interactions between developers and the people that play their games is such a fascinating thing to cover in the medium of gaming that is so young, but has been so passionate and developed so quickly. And the Stanley Parable, especially with it Ultra Deluxe, is such a fascinating game because it exists as an artistic commentary in the time that we live in. The Stanley Parable is about dealing with choice and making choices and what the idea of choice is in the interactive medium of games. But Ultra Deluxe takes it even further, where there's commentary on re-releases and there's commentary on DLC and there's jokes about crappy DLC and crappy hiring practices. And like, it's one of the funniest games I've ever played. It's one of the most unique games I've ever played. And Ultra Deluxe is a new game. It is mostly the Stanley Parable, but the Ultra Deluxe content is so woven into the original experience that it becomes a new game unto itself. So, I don't know. Have any of you played the Stanley Parable?
I haven't played it. I'm familiar with it. I've seen it on the PlayStation Store, on all the storefronts, right? And
Yeah.
as you know, as you're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, this sounds like it's going to be really good. I just looked it up to see if it was on PlayStation Plus. It's not, but it is on Game Pass.
Oh, it is interesting.
It is on the Ultra Deluxe.
Yeah, yeah. Get Ultra Deluxe. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I mean, why wouldn't I? I got Game Pass, so I'll check it out. But yeah, I haven't played it. You guys played this yet?
Nope.
Sorry.
I mean, I think I've seen it because I could hear the narrator in my head, and I do know that it's supposed to be very funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And yeah, now I might pick it up because I'll.
The interesting thing about the Stanley Parable, though, is it's you know how there's a lot there can be games that have just like endings, like ending A, ending B, ending C, things like that. So the Stanley Parable is the endings you get based on the choices you make, obviously, but a run of the game to get an ending is somewhere between 3 and 7 minutes, and so. If you want to just experience the game and like understand its basic conceit, play for 30 minutes and you'll get it. But then there's like 8 hours worth of endings. So if you really want to go deep and like if you turn around and exit that door in that way and then suddenly you get a whole new path, it's a game that kind of folds in on itself and introduces things later on that kind of recontextualize things from earlier. But it's a game that is a very low barrier to entry because if you play it for an hour, you'll get the conceit, and if you don't like it, then you're not going to like it, 8 hours later. But this is not a big time commitment game at all.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm. The final game that I'm going to talk about is John. You mentioned your game of the year is an indie game in Bloodshot, and that's another great game. Really, really loved that. But my game of this year is also an indie game so far. We'll see if anything takes it down. And this is a game I can. If you guys haven't played these other games, I can guarantee you didn't play this game. And that is Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Now you might have heard of Sayonara.
Oh, it was in one of the directs, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was. And you might have heard of Sayonara Wild Hearts, which is a game that came out in 2019. It's kind of an interactive music video thing, and I love that game. That game is great. But the developers Samoga went quiet for 5 years until this game came out, and they put out Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, which is. The appeal is basically like the original Resident Evil games, like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, where you're in this confined area and you're going from room to room. You get the key with the heart shape on it, and it opens a heart-shaped door. Okay, so basic and see, and it also is from like the fixed camera perspective of like the original Resident Evil games, and it's got this black and white aesthetic. But this game is about puzzles, and it's about every kind of twisted, messed up, screw with your brain puzzle you can possibly think of. And this is a very, very niche game. And so my passionate recommendation does not mean that any of you will enjoy this game. And so I don't recommend this game necessarily. You really have to be a sicko to get into this one. But it's a kind of game that incentivizes you to write things down physically. And so I had a notebook and I was like writing down runes and I was writing down days of the week that translated into this code. And the thing that was written on that door and the phases of the moon. And I've got a picture here of just a little bit of, let's see if this focuses. There's a little bit of the notes that I was taking.
Oh my god,
that is awesome. That reminds me of instruction booklets back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm doing like Tetronimo puzzles and like alchemy and translating awesome. Latin and like so. There's just all sorts of nonsense in here that is just absolutely ridiculous. But
I'm about to click purchase on this right now.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Actually,
it's ridiculous. It's a very, very tough puzzle game. You really have to think about these things. But man, oh man, is it satisfying when you realize like the design on the floor in the main room that I've just been walking past for hours is an answer to this puzzle on the other side of the map I just love that game so much, and it has a phenomenal soundtrack and a great visual style, and I just think it's remarkable. Absolutely remarkable game.
That's cool. That's a great suggestion. Because I remember hearing about that game, and sometimes we hear about so many games, I think, at once.
Yeah.
I think we've all suffered that where some games fall through the cracks, and I think this one would have had you not mentioned it today.
Yeah, totally.
So I definitely want to check it out, especially after seeing your notes, because that is totally like renting a video game during the NES era
Yeah.
and going to the back of the instruction booklet and the notes section. And you
Yeah.
used to see stuff like that, or like the passwords to get to
Exactly.
certain areas that had little boxes like the ones you just showed.
Yeah. No, and you'll definitely like the way that this game also plays with like game nostalgia, because it's obviously it's a game, but in the game you are like hacking into like developer code of like PS1 era games. And so like you play these simulated PS1 style games, and then if you like break the code of those games, you get an answer that you can plug into somewhere else. It's really, really special. And I played this game in the best/worst possible way. I was in Italy while I was doing this, and I did not have consistent Wi-Fi. And also this game was so new, there were barely guide for it. And so I'm so used to like, especially in puzzle games, like get into a puzzle and be like, oh, I don't get this. And they're just looking for a guide and I just go through it. But I couldn't do that because no one was playing this game. No one was writing guides about this game. And I was in Italy. So I just had to suck it up. It was
awesome.
crazy. It was a crazy experience. And I've already given some like niche weirdo recommendations here. But my final recommendation is not nicher than Lorelei, but have any of you heard of Wilmot's Warehouse?
No.
Heard of it.
Wilmot's Warehouse is a game about organizing a warehouse. You're a little square guy named Wilmot, and you work at like an Amazon type factory, and every day a truck comes and drops off a set of blocks, and it's a very simple visual game. And the blocks are like a yellow block with like a cross pattern on it, or an orange block with like grapes on it or something. They're very simple. And the entire cycle of the game is just you over the course of playing the game are in this warehouse, and every time they drop off new blocks, you come up with your own organization system. You're like, I'll put the orange ones in this category, in this area, and I'll make sure all the ones with the stripes on it are here, and the blue ones are going to go there. But it builds so naturally because the game switches between that mode and then the other mode, which is we want you to find 3 things, get them to us as quick as you can. And so then you are tested against your own organization of, I'll go over here, get that, get over there. And then over the course of the game, you get like 100+ different types of blocks to deal with. And this is some complete sicko shit. Like most people don't know this game. Most people are not going to enjoy this game, but I am a lists guy. I am an organizing guy. I'm a spreadsheets guy, and this game tickles that itch. If you like making spreadsheets, if you like organizing things into little categories, this game, I could not stop playing this game. I absolutely lost like 12 hours to it. And by the way, the game doesn't take that long. But every time they give you like unlimited time to organize, like just take as long as you want. And I would just sit there for like an hour and a half each time, just like, I want to reorganize this whole thing. So it's messed up. It's a weirdo game, but it's on mobile. I played it on mobile. It's great, but it is on Switch, which I think would be the best place to play it because you get touchscreen and you get button controls. So Wilmot's Warehouse. That's another recommendation for me.
Awesome. Those are all very you definitely have some like niche picks in there, which I appreciate because I want to learn. This is also learning, I think, for all of us. For me, games that I don't want to miss kind of games, and all the ones you mentioned, I've Googled all of these as you're talking about them, and man, like people are raving about like all these games you've talked about.
Yeah,
like
some might say I have good
9s
taste.
and up. Yeah, apparently you do, man. Some good picks, so thank you for that.
If I told you my hot takes, though, you would not think I have good taste. Let me just put it out there. You would not think that at all. It would take you 5 seconds to think I'm a complete idiot.
All right, is it my turn now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, as you guys were going through the list, I highlighted the ones that I want to mention that haven't been mentioned yet. But for a lot of your picks, I've played them. I agree with them. So let me just say that my most anticipated game is a game by Yacht Club, and it's Mina the Hollower.
Oh yeah, looks great.
Very excited for this
Yeah.
game. They said the inspiration was like Link's Awakening and Castlevania.
But yeah, you can definitely see that.
It's like, dude, sign me up, man. Love top-down Zeldas. Love Castlevania. Konami doesn't make Castlevania games anymore, so
Yep.
this is great. So that's one I'm really looking forward to, and I'm sure you guys saw it then at the what was it called? Their direct Devolver's
Mhm.
Devolver Digital, and it's not coming out yet. I don't know if it'll come out this year. I'm guessing it's probably not, but at any rate, that'll be a day one for me. Most anticipated games. I'm going to give it one that if you guys haven't played it, you should check it out. It's really cool. I think especially it's like a love letter RPG to 80s and 90s kids that grew up watching Saturday morning cartoons. And that is Saturday Morning RPG. Very cool game. There's a summon in the game that is the giraffe from the Fruit Stripes gum. Yeah, like I'm talking, there's some cool stuff in this game. I bought it physically. In fact, this was the first game that I bought from Limited Run Games. And this was, I think, this was their first title after they released the game that they were working on before, when they were game developers. And so this was like their first physical release of a game outside of that. And I remember seeing it. I'm like, dude, there's no way that this game is real. This looks so cool. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So if you like that kind of stuff, that is a really cool, fun game. And I'm sure it's probably a pretty good deal, I would imagine, digitally.
It's $10.
Yeah.
Nice.
Totally worth it. My next three are going to be games that they're big indie games now. Obviously, they didn't start out this way. The first one is Undertale.
Oh, dude, I love Undertale. Oh man,
Yeah,
talk about a soundtrack, man. Oh my god,
such a cool game. The fact that you can play it in different ways, with as far as being, what was it, the pacifist?
Yeah.
Really cool. Just interesting, very interesting game. And then they got the sequel that they're working on, right? That's being released in pieces.
Parts, yeah, Delta Rune.
Yep.
Yeah. I haven't checked it out because I'm going to wait for it to be completed and see it in its final form, I guess you could say. That's what I'm looking forward to. Has anyone played the sequel?
No, I'm waiting. Yeah, I'm waiting for it to play as well. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much to play. I'll wait for the complete edition
Is
there.
the whole game going to be free?
No, not in the final place. I doubt it. But Toby Fox has enough money already.
He seems to be doing well. Definitely. Next one, I got to go with Celeste.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude.
yeah.
Great game.
I love platformers.
Yeah.
Love
it's a
them.
Great game.
And again, that's a game that it can be difficult, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you want to collect all the strawberries in the game.
Yep.
So
and all that. Yeah.
Do the B side and the C side, and
I like difficulty like that too, where you don't have to do it. You don't have to collect that strawberry. But if you want to challenge yourself, you can.
Yeah.
And if I recall, you don't see a game over screen in Celeste, do you?
No,
It's unlimited lives. It's really
yeah,
how much
you just
can you
restart
handle?
at the checkpoint.
Yeah. So it's like, if you go for something really hard, what are the consequences? You restart at the checkpoint. So I think games like that almost give me more incentive to say, you know what, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to be stubborn here and try and figure this out. So I appreciate that. And of course, Celeste, just its overall story was pretty cool. It was different. What do they say? The game's basically about dealing with depression. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's like overcome. Yeah, it's like overcoming.
Yeah. Great story on that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you?
You're climbing the mountain, but it's like a metaphor for your getting over your depression.
Yeah, like the story. I didn't know this. Obviously, I didn't know it buying the game. Right. Once I see something I like about a game, I don't want to know anything else because I really want to go in blind. Like if I know I'm going to buy it, I want to go in as blind as I can be. So I just knew the challenging platforming aspect of it. And then I get hit with that story. I was like, I was not expecting this. Like, wow, this game just got a lot deeper, a lot better. Like this was really cool. So I appreciate it that a lot. Next game is going to be a game that it got a lot of expansions. I was impressed. It's Dead Cells.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, since Konami doesn't want to give us Castlevania anymore,
Yeah.
at least Dead Cells gave us the return to Castlevania. And when I played that, I was like, my God, this is cool. Like, it was packed full of content. And of course, if you've played the Castlevania games, you know the soundtracks are amazing. The fact that we have all that music now in Dead Cells is like, this is really, really cool. So that's a game that I've really appreciate. I'm glad it exists. Again, it's the only way to get Castlevania today in some form of way. Then my last regular pick is a game that I backed on Kickstarter. Absolutely love it. And again, Shovel Knight, love that game. I would have mentioned it. That was one that I backed on Kickstarter with Wii U as well. But the game, and I have it right here physically. It just came in like a week ago physically. And it's right here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Oh, they made it look like an SNES game? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is for the Kickstarter Sea of Stars early backer limited edition, it says. So obviously this is not going to get open. I own the game digitally on PS5 and Switch because they gave us codes for both of them, which was really nice. I gave a code to my cousin. I was like, here, play this game because he doesn't have PlayStation Plus. I said, I'll play it on PlayStation for free with PlayStation Plus. And I gave another code to my friends. So it was nice. I was able to hand out some free codes. Guys, have you played Sea of Stars?
Yes.
Oh my God, it's so good.
It's if you're looking for an SNES style RPG, oh man, it's real good.
I love Final Fantasy VI, so I think it's that kind of game.
Yeah, or like Chrono Trigger, like those type of SNES RPGs. I highly recommend that game. It's so good.
Yeah, John's
And
right.
it does have a demo. It has a demo.
It's exactly what it's compared to. Is Super Nintendo era RPGs, and a big inspiration was Chrono Trigger, and they got the composer from Chrono Trigger to work on a selection of the tracks in the game. So if you know Chrono Trigger well, it has one of the best soundtracks. That's my opinion. So many great games with so many great soundtracks, but it's very good, very memorable. And Sea of Stars was no different. The soundtrack was amazing. So yeah, definitely check that out. And lastly, my hidden gem pick is a game that I still think is probably pretty hidden. I don't think a lot of people know about it. And it's Tiny Thor.
Nope. Never heard of it.
Yep.
Tiny.
So I reviewed this game on my channel, and it was really cool because the developers actually commented on it. And I wasn't expecting that because I didn't have very many subscribers. I still don't have a lot of subscribers, but this is when I had like maybe 100 or something.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that is so cool. You know, like this is great. And they're like, yeah, you really understood the game and you get what we're trying to do. I was like, this is cool. I'm on the right track. Let me tell you guys, if you like tight, challenging platformers that are hard but fair, very similar to what the president there at From Software said, where like if you die, you know how you died, and you can pretty much figure out what you're going to do different the next time. It's like that with some of the jumps in the game. I mean, you got to be really precise, and it's like if you grew up playing games in the NES era, platformers especially, there's certain games that I think weren't intentionally trying to be hard, but because we're in the kind of infancy stages of game design, some of these jumps, you had to be right on the edge to hit that platform like perfectly. And it reminds me of that except it's not a broken game. It's just really tight platforming and tight controls, and it's very rewarding. And there's also a little bit of Metroidvania aspect to it as well, which again I wasn't expecting and I was impressed by. So yeah, if you get the time, check out Tiny Thor. It was a very, very cool game. It's the graphic style it's like Super Nintendo era, but better. So you could probably say 32-bit 2D kind of style game.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very nice, very cool. Obviously, the character in it's Thor. The story doesn't matter. I even said that in my review, and the developers agreed with me too. That the story doesn't matter. It never does. Never does in platformers. We know that. It's not about the story. It's about the gameplay. And so, yeah, that was a very fun game. So, yeah, if you guys haven't played it, check it out. Well, that wraps up all the games there.
Could I mention one thing real quick?
Yes.
Because I think we would probably get flamed for not mentioning Hollow Knight.
I know, right?
Oh, that's a great game. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic game. I mean, I think everybody's just bitter on it because we're waiting for Silk Song. And yeah, but Hollow Knight's fantastic, and so is Hades. I thought somebody would have said Hades too, but
I love that.
I had them both on my list, and I feel like I didn't mention them because they're such big games, right? Like everyone knows these games now. Hades, Hollow Knight, they're household names. Add Axiom Verge, that's an awesome game. Penny's Big Breakaway, which came out recently, that game was rad. I think you guys would like that. There's a lot, like Blasphemous, great game. I'm sure we had others. You guys have any others you wanted to throw out there?
I mean, I can do it, doesn't?
Yeah, there's so many. There's so many.
Yeah, there was a lot.
I'll throw out one more before we switch over to our fan submitted topics here. Patrick's Parabox. If you guys haven't played it, it's freaking good. You're basically a cube inside a cube, and you're trying to push boxes around, and you enter other cubes to push blocks into certain patterns and things like that. It's actually really freaking cool.
Have you played Cocoon? It sounds like Cocoon.
I have not.
Oh, Cocoon, yeah, Cocoon's good too. That's like
That's
a
a
puzzle.
very good game. Yeah,
But it was, I believe it was created by one guy,
cool.
developed by one guy. So, all right. With that, we'll head over quick to our fan submitted topics. First one here comes from Mr. Nintendo Prime himself.
Oh.
Let the super chats going. What do you guys think is the biggest key for Nintendo to have a successful launch for Switch 2?
This is the easiest question in the world because release it with Mario Kart. That's all you got to do. Just drop it with Mario Kart or even a 3D Mario. Like that's all you have to do.
Do exactly what you did with the Switch. Like,
I agree.
Bring the heat. You brought it with Breath of the Wild. You brought it with Odyssey. You kept releasing like good significant games all throughout the Switch's lifespan. Like you didn't let up off the gas. Just do that again.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like that. Go ahead.
I think it's a clear roadmap into that first year is going to be really, really important because this year, the beginning of this year, I think was pretty tough for us as Nintendo fans. Only knowing a couple of games going into the year, almost all of them remakes, almost all of them Mario games. And then this summer showcase completely turned around. Original games, a major non-Mario game, other big releases. I think that they need to do what they did with the Switch. I agree with what you're saying, Hoops, but I think it needs to be what they did with the Switch, specifically in terms of what that January 2017 presentation was. Lay out most of the calendar right there. What's the holiday game going to be? What are going to be the kind of weird things? What's the IP going to be? What kind of EPD4 casual experimental game are we going to get? Is there going to be an IP revival of some kind? Obviously, are we getting something like a 3D Mario? And if we come out of like an early next year showcase with like 4 games that are going to be that are Switch 2 games, and of course that'll be on top of Metroid Prime 4 releasing and Legend ZA releasing, then I think that leads into a successful launch, because then you look at that lineup of games. Let's just say it's Mario Kart, a casual game, and Kirby or something like that. I don't know. You look at that lineup of that plus Metroid plus Pokemon, and no matter what kind of Nintendo gamer you are, you're like, I'm in on this ecosystem. I like a casual game. I like a Mario game. I like a kart game. I like Metroid. I like Pokemon. I mean, you're covering all your bases there.
Mhm.
And if everyone's going to want to get in, and they can get in at different points in the year, if it's like, oh, okay, well, I might not like 3D Mario, which is launching with, but 3 months later is Mario Kart. All right, I'll get it 3 months later. Oh, holiday, that's when we're getting Pokemon and something else. Great, I'll pick it for holiday, and then I could also go back and pick up Mario Kart at the holiday season. So I think a solid look into the first year will just carry that momentum. And of course, I hope that they don't stop putting out banger games far past that, but that first year is critical. And that's exactly what made the Switch so successful. Is January 2017, you're like, oh my God, we're going to be getting Splatoon and ARMS and Mario Kart and Super Mario Odyssey and 1-2 Switch and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Fire Emblem Warriors. And oh, are you kidding me?
Right.
I'm in.
I think for me, the biggest thing would be if they release Wave Race.
Hey, that's a great
I'm just
call.
kidding. I'm just kidding. I love Wave Race, but I'm totally kidding.
With the Game Boy one?
No,
That gets
6,
tough right
6,
there. I know.
64 and Blue Storm. I love them, man.
64 is great.
Yeah, they still haven't. They still, I don't think, have beat the water physics and the way they react in that game. It's
impressive.
still the best I've ever seen,
Yeah.
which is wild. I don't know, but in a serious answer, I think we need clear marketing. We can't have Wii to Wii U. People did not understand it. We understood it, but the mass public did not. The gamers get it. Even some gamers didn't get it. I'll be honest. I had people ask me about it that are friends of mine that are gamers and didn't know if it was another accessory. Is it like the balance board? Is it another thing? Is it a tablet like accessory for the Wii? You know, so we don't want that again. I don't think we'll get it again, though. I do think they learned. I do think it really just comes down to the games. Mario Kart, I've said this many times on the show. I actually do expect to get Mario Kart in the launch window, possibly a launch title, because you really have to look at the fact that I have Mario Kart sitting on my shelf for the Wii U. I bought it the day it came out. That's how long ago it came out. We got 48 additional tracks, and that's been great. But you're building these tracks within a game that came out 10 years ago, right? So I do expect a Mario Kart to be ready, and I think we all should expect that. It should happen. There's no reason why it shouldn't be ready, is my point. Will it happen? Who knows? But it should be ready. So I think Mario Kart, I think a 3D Mario. Again, we got Odyssey a long time ago.
It was so
think,
long ago. Where are they?
Like 7 years ago now.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So I do think
We're going to get the biggest Mario Kart and the biggest 3D Mario in a year.
Here's the other thing, though, that I do wonder about. And in the same way we got Mario Kart Deluxe on the Switch, do we get a Smash Brothers Deluxe with all the DLC in the first in the launch window? I think it would make people very happy, and that's a whole nother topic that we should have on the show, though, about what's going to go on with Smash. Are we going to get the same one and they're going to add tons of characters, or are they going to rebuild and build a new one? Who knows?
Well, regardless,
if I had to buy more Smash Amiibo, I'm going to be so annoyed. I just completed the set. I just completed the set, you know?
Congrats.
Yeah. I think for me, it's tangential to what you were saying, Steve. Don't fuck up the name.
Yeah.
Just call it Switch 2. don't screw
They're
up.
not going to do it though, unfortunately.
You're not going to do
Not.
it. You know they're not. There's no way.
Not have another like Steve said. You cannot have another Wii U situation. Do not screw up the name.
Yeah.
That's
It's a big
the
deal.
biggest thing for me. So,
I don't think the launch is going to be where they're going to fail. Like it's going to be successful no matter what. They built this. The fan base is much bigger. Like I think Tucker said earlier, I don't think they're going to have a problem selling all of the units that they put out, at least within the first couple months. It's really how do you continue that momentum? And I think they need games like they did with the Switch, where they had a game every single month in the launch year. So they need something like that.
Yeah.
And I think the third parties, I really got to believe that all these third parties want to be a part of what the Switch just did. Why would you not?
Totally.
It's a reason to be able to print money. So I think we're going to get a lot of those big third party titles like
That's a great point.
Elden Ring, like Final Fantasy
Yeah.
remake. I think we're going to get
Call
a lot
of
of
Duty.
that stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. COD's coming next year. Yeah, totally.
And
You know it's not coming though? GTA 6. But GTA 5, hey, like a launch window title for the next system.
Red Dead. Be nice to have Red Dead Redemption 2 on there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
How funny would that be if it ran at 60 FPS?
Other games that have recently been like rumored, I guess, for Switch 2 are like actual legit ports of the Kingdom Hearts games and not just the cloud versions.
Yep.
And I would be all over that. I was super disappointed when they dropped the cloud versions because I've played a good amount of Kingdom Hearts, not all the games, because I've been like a Nintendo guy and I've never really owned a PlayStation system that often. And so I was like dying for them to do that. And then when they dropped the cloud versions, it was just like so bittersweet. So I think
Well, they just came to Steam. They work on Steam Deck.
They'll be there.
Like
whatever works on Steam Deck will work on the Switch too. So like
right. So that would be a huge one for me, and I think a lot of other people too. And I think what Steve was saying, having like a big third party game in that first year would be a big deal. Because I remember watching that initial teaser for the Switch and seeing Skyrim there, and just it was like obviously Skyrim the game is great, but seeing that Skyrim like it just like itself was coming, like that let you know that this wasn't another Wii U situation.
You know, it's not impossible. Starfield. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. You know who's really gonna have a field day porting things to Switch 2? Capcom. You know how many games they've made in the last 2 generations that are not on Nintendo systems? There's the cloud versions of like Resident Evil 7 and Village. Those got to get actual ports. DMC 5, Street Fighter 6, the remakes, the Resident Evil remakes, dude. They're going to go crazy.
Monster Hunter Wilds might be a big launch
be on there.
Window.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think they're going to market that with the Switch too, because Rise was such a big get for Nintendo for the timed exclusivity.
I agree 100%. I do see that. I see the Mana game coming over as well. I see like great support from Square Enix. And Street Fighter is a good point to make. And if we look back to the Switch launch, it launched with Ultra Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, Ultra Street Fighter 2, yeah.
And it did so good on the Switch. It sold very well. So I got to
imagine. It was like nothing else to buy at the time.
We have Marvel we have the fighting collection coming out here in a couple of weeks with Marvel versus Capcom. So like, yeah, Capcom's going to bring everything. I agree. I think they're going to bring everything.
Yeah.
Yep. And I got that physical edition pre-ordered for the Marvel Capcom collection.
I'm not a big physical collector, so I don't worry about
I get
I'm the reason why game's not selling it anymore.
Yeah.
And then, so just a quick follow-up from Diddles then, responding to Nate, I think successful launch comes down to a combination of strong marketing, strong game lineup, and good inventory of hardware.
Yeah.
That one we didn't touch on, but yeah, having that good inventory of hardware so scalpers can't just like eat us alive.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we've heard that Nintendo has purposefully been preparing the Switch to make sure that doesn't happen. The
Mhm.
Switch 2, to make sure they have plenty of hardware to go around, because it's like we just got an example of what happened and how it went wrong with the PS5. That was a debacle. That was horrible. I was able to get one. I was able to pre-order one, and it was a miracle. I had to push through my order on Walmart and kept pressing the button over and over and over again, and I got lucky because I didn't quit after like 3 or 4 minutes, and it went through. And I thought for the life of me I was going to get an email from them a couple weeks later saying your pre-order's canceled because other people were getting it and posting it on Twitter and Reddit. I'm like, oh God, I just know this is going to happen. And
It's going to be only through the My Nintendo website.
Yeah.
They've done that so well with Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen, because obviously then we have to wait that many more days for it to ship to our house. Which, you know how it is on a console launch day. You want to get it immediately. I mean,
Oh my God.
I've camped out for so many over the years.
Yeah, I was in that Switch Best Buy line at midnight. I was sitting there for like 6 hours beforehand.
I don't want that thing shipped at all because I don't want a possibility of it sitting there being stolen. The hell with that.
Yeah,
I agree. And you know, people would probably be out too if that's what they do. They know when the release date is, and they know it's getting delivered to a lot of people.
Yep. Sorry to cut you out there, Tucker.
No, you all share the same experience, and that's why I'm gonna try my best to find a actual Best Buy or a place to go, and I'll sit in the line. I can't wait for that. That sounds awesome.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, you get to sit in line and you can play your Switch.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I did the same thing with my 3DS last time. I was like, "This is the last time I'll ever play on this." That's not true. I still play on my 3DS, but I was like, "So long, buddy. I'm on the Switch."
Yeah,
but it'll be actually true with the Switch, because if it's backwards compatible, why the hell I'm not
right?
That's going in cold storage.
I wonder if people will camp out anymore though, because I will say, like, I camped out for the GameCube and up, and I had a great time. I camped out for GameCube when I was in high school, and we had a legit such a good time. We camped.
I don't want to make you feel old.
For the Wii.
I was in high school and the Switch came out.
Oh, that's okay. I don't care. That
was my junior year of high school.
I know I'm old, but we camped out for the Wii. That's funny. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And this is when I was younger. And that was so much fun. We got there Friday. We were first in line. We obviously the Wii came out on Sunday. We were at Best Buy. We brought a projector with us, threw it up on the wall. Obviously, I'm here in Arizona, so it's sunny all the time, even during that time of the year, which was November. But at night, as soon as the sun went down, like, we were playing video games with everybody, like everyone in line. We had a Sharpie because people wanted to get out of line, of course, to go to the bathroom or to come over and play. So we put everyone's number on their hand. And we had a really good system. Even Best Buy came out and they're like, "Oh, it looks like you have it under control." Yeah, there's that. And they were nice too, and allowed me to borrow an extension, huge one, and plug the projector in, into the building. So it was cool. We had a very fun time. But so many years I've done this, and I wonder if that'll ever really happen again. I just don't know with the world today, with what, obviously with COVID last time, when that happened, I questioned. I was like, I wonder if people will ever camp out again, if that'll be a thing. What do you guys think?
So I collect Lego, and there's a Lego store like right near me, and people they don't camp out that, like, not overnight, but they do show up, like, 3 or 4 hours before the store opens. And it's still like a really cool experience. You get to talk to people that have similar interests, and I could see maybe not doing the overnight camping, but showing up a few hours early, I think it will happen.
It is fun. That's part of the aspect that I really like, is you do meet a lot of people that are obviously like super fans as well, and a lot of good conversations. That the time goes by quick because the quality, I think, of conversation is that everyone's hyped. Everyone's talking about what games you're going to pick up as soon as they open the doors. It's a good time for sure. So hopefully we see that happen again.
Heck yeah. All right, on to the next one here real quick. What are your thoughts on DKC Future? This is a game I think that, at least for me, Donkey Kong could be a game in the launch window of Switch 2. That's one we never touched on when we were talking about that type of stuff too. So
My guess is
There's a game out there. What was Retro doing for 5 years before they picked up Prime?
When the rumors popped up about this time last year for that 3D Donkey Kong, I was like, please be real. Because I feel like the fact that we haven't got one since DK64 is ridiculous. And I know that's not Donkey Kong Country necessarily, but like that is a game that absolutely needs to happen. So I'm crossing my fingers.
I think that over the course of the next generation, Donkey Kong will be back and as strong as Donkey Kong was. Let's say Super Nintendo era. I know there's like a lot of like GameCube, DS, like all that stuff spinoffs, but like I think main core Donkey Kong will be a major part of the next system. The theme park is a big thing. They're porting the games. My guess is that, or my feeling is that DKC Returns HD is going to be the sort of thing that Pikmin 3 Deluxe was in terms of putting out a port, starting the momentum of the series back up, putting it like just having the shelves in the eShop filled with a bunch of different options for you to get into the series. Here's my guess. I agree. I think a 3D Donkey Kong. I don't think it's coming soon. I think that's like a mid-generation thing for the next console. But 2D Donkey Kong, end of next year, and here's the moonshot. Playtonic. Playtonic developed.
I could see
They made
it.
Ukulele in the Impossible Lair. Everyone says it's basically like the best Donkey Kong Country game since Tropical Freeze. They say they're working on something big. There we go.
Did you play the first Ukulele?
Oh no, I haven't played either of those games, but
the first one's like Banjo Kazooie, right?
Yeah, and Banjo's one of my favorite
They're
games.
re-releasing that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
they're
play
talented.
Replay. Yeah. I know they are, and they're Rare devs, and they've got like Grant Kirkhope doing their scores. Trust me, guys, this is gonna be the greatest day of your life.
I hope so. With Donkey Kong, I think, of course, you mentioned with the movie, and obviously the way Donkey Kong was highlighted in the movie, like it's a pretty significant role.
Totally.
I think we can probably surmise that they have big plans in store for Donkey Kong, because you don't do a theme park expansion unless you have big plans in the future, right?
Totally.
Like they're not.
They're putting in 3 parks, I think, too. Like I think it's in Japan, America, and then like I think in Florida and California. I think they're doing DK stuff.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So, I look at that. I think about the fact that this year is the 30th anniversary of Donkey Kong Country. Came out in '94. Yeah, I was there when it came out, like for all the hype and everything surrounding it. It was a very special experience. I will say, I think Donkey Kong peaked for that time. Like if we look at '94, we look at the Super Nintendo to today, Donkey Kong did best on the Super Nintendo with Donkey Kong Country games.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of hype around DK64. It was a hit or miss for a lot of people, unfortunately. And I want to see DK hit that level again and surpass it. Just like I want to see Metroid, right? I want to see
both of those are
Metroid be one of those top tier big seller games, because it's a great game. It just doesn't sell great, unfortunately. And I want to see both of these succeed, because if they do, we're going to be able to get more games, more Metroid games, more DK games. So I do think there's a big future for DK.
Yep.
It's just a matter of what we're going to see. Is it going to be 2D or is it going to be 3D? Or is it going to be both?
Hey.
What are we going to see first? There's a lot of questions still, but I think there's a bright future for DK.
Donkey Kong is really weird because it's like, as a IP, I would say it's like totally mainstream because everyone knows who Donkey Kong is, and like the character itself is almost like almost in terms of just like people knowing about him on the level of Mario. So
Yeah.
like he is like a major IP for Nintendo, but it was like after the 64 era or the Super Nintendo era, and then you had DK64. It was like they basically just relegated him to like smaller spin-off games, and then they did bring him back with DKC Returns, but then it was like every 5 years, and then we haven't really had anything since Tropical Freeze, and obviously we've got this now, but it's
been 10
re-release.
years.
So it's like I think all they really have to do is just like sit themselves down and actually make like marquee level Donkey Kong game, and not one that's like a spin-off or a B tier game or something like that. And like they'll
no Donkey Konga slander here, all right?
Donkey Konga is great. I mean, Tucker's got the bongos right there.
I do. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I got a soft spot for King of Swing, personally.
But that's all they really have to do is like make a game that's like you can tell it's had some work put into it, and people pick it up because they know Donkey Kong. You don't have to worry about like, it's not like Metroid where it's a little more niche. Like people know who Donkey Kong is. Like he's already been accepted. So
yeah. Here's another theory for the next system. Nintendo's starting to pop up their properties. They're starting to get like, obviously what we saw them do with Mario over the course of the last year after the success of the movie, just every kind of spin-off and possible release they could do. They're gonna do that for Zelda around the launch of the Zelda movie. I think Donkey Kong obviously is smaller than Mario and Zelda in terms of how many games you could possibly do, but I think that over the course of the next generation, we're going to start seeing more consistent releases from all these different series. And I think Donkey Kong and Metroid, and then maybe Pikmin. That's a maybe for me. But I think that those two are ones that are primed for it, because pun actually kind of intended, I guess, for Metroid. Yeah. Because there's so much you can do with those. And so I think that we will start seeing like biannual releases for each of these series, like 2D Donkey Kong next year, 3D Donkey Kong 2 years after that, Donkey Kong spin-off, sequel to the 2D Donkey Kong at the end of the generation. That's as many Donkey Kong games we got in one system since the Super Nintendo. Metroid Prime next year, 2D Metroid the year after that, a remake of something else like Port, Samus Returns or something like that, new spin-off. Like I really think that they're going to start clipping these things out and pulling in extra teams, as we've seen, like pulling in Forever and Tantalize. Like they're really starting to get extra teams working on them. Obviously, my theory about Platonic for DKC, I think they're just going to start bolstering their libraries for these games. And obviously, we've just seen over the course of Switch generation, like there aren't very many like bad quality Nintendo published Switch games, and I don't expect that to stop anytime soon. So I think we're going to be in a really great place come like middle of next generation, where it's like, hey, all these IP that people have been wanting to be supported and seen get a mainstream push and cross media support, like Zelda get a movie, Donkey Kong get a movie, Metroid get a show or whatever. Like I really think that they're gonna bolster basically everything they've got.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think I mentioned something about one of the series. I think it was last week maybe, where I kind of am anticipating there to be a 2D Zelda and a 3D Zelda universe where I mean you don't have the same teams working on 2D and 3D, right? So what I'd like to see is we have both universes going forward, the top-down Zelda and the 3D. And I feel like we've seen this with Mario now as well. We have the 3D Mario and the 2D, or the Super Mario 3D World 2.5D, however you want to look at that one. Metroid, though, we're seeing that too. First-person Metroid, and we still have the Metroidvania style Metroid. So I would love to see that. Yeah, it seems like that's kind of Nintendo's plan.
Yeah.
And in turn, we get a lot more games. So yes, please do this with Donkey Kong, because I think we all want a 3D one, but we also love that Donkey Kong Country Returns formula. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there to get a lot of games out of these IPs.
Metroid Kart.
No.
Come on, guys.
Bring back Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh yeah, dude, totally.
Please.
That's primed.
Yes.
Honestly, that's a game that's absolutely primed for a
A
remaster.
remake.
Absolutely.
NSO. I can see
Yeah,
that.
because they're running out. They've run out of Wii U games. They can still do some Wii games, but DS, 3DS, and DS, those are primed. Those are
Yeah.
primed for just digging into those weirdo back catalogs and like putting out 2 or 3 of those a year. Like,
Right.
it's
Yeah,
coming.
cool.
It's coming.
Fair enough. Thank you to A14 for that question. We'll go to our last one of the day then, and this one is to Thunderstash from George or Jorge FT, one of the two. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this is Thunderstash. Have you watched Moon Channel's video on why Mother 3 may not come out to the West? If so, what do you think as you brought up the game last week?
Okay. I have not watched the video, but I will definitely look it up after the podcast and I'll watch it.
Mhm.
I'll definitely watch it and see what this is all about. And unfortunate that they don't think it's going to come to the West. I'll just say that right off the bat. So what do you think as you brought up the game last? What do I think about Mother 3? Well, I remember reading a while back that maybe the reason why Nintendo wasn't going to bring it to the States was because of some of the material in the game and the translation and how some of these things wouldn't be appropriate for the American audience. And that was years ago that I remember reading that. And as we know, Nintendo doesn't speak publicly often on anything that has to do with Earthbound or the Mother series. So I don't have more recent reasons as to why it hasn't come out yet. But then last week, I cited some reasons as to why maybe you look back at it, because there's other companies making games that are inspired by Earthbound, inspired by the Mother series.
Yeah.
So there's people out there that are saying, hey, I love what you did so much with this game that I'm spending all this money, time, and effort with my development studio to create a game that's similar in that vein or that's spiritual in that way. And it's like, this is your game, guys. Like, you created Earthbound and Mother. We got to do something with it. You know, they got a fan translation out there for Mother 3. I own it on my GBA. I own an actual cart with the fan translation installed on it on cart. And it's like, why don't you pay this team that did it? I'm sure whatever you pay them would be greatly appreciated, because they did this as a passion project. They weren't looking to get money. If anything, they were looking to just not get shut down by Nintendo. That was it. So imagine that. Like, that would be such a great headline story. And it would look really good, honestly, for Nintendo. And it'd be great for the gaming community. Let's just say that. But I know they don't want to encourage that kind of thing. No company encourages that, like doing fans translations or ROM hacks or anything of that nature. They can never publicly encourage it. So then I got to ask, well, why don't you translate it? And I just keep coming back to the same thing, that it must be something with the source material that would be hard to change. Therefore, you can't change the translation. That's for Mother 3. I don't know. What I'd love to see, I'd love to see Earthbound remade in HD 2D.
I think it's very possible. Actually, here's my theory. All right, hear me out. I know this is not as good as the HD 2D. Arte Piazza, they made the Super Mario RPG remake, 3D remake in that style of Earthbound. I said that comes in the next 4 years.
I think that would be perfect, honestly. I do. What do you guys think?
I think eventually we'll see something with Earthbound. I mean, they have, Earthbound on the SNES, and then they brought Earthbound Beginnings
Yeah.
back I think that was in the Wii U days.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they still want Earthbound to be a thing. And when people are playing Smash, they're like, what's Ness? What's Lucas from, really? And if it is the thing, I have heard that it is because of material. If it is because of that, maybe they do a remake and just kind of skirt around it. Like, don't even address whatever's causing the issues. I don't know. I don't know anything really about Mother 3. I mean, I know one thing, but I doubt that that's why it's not. They're not bringing it over. And it's weird. They do kind of mention it. They mentioned it in E3 the one year, like Reggie in the Robot Chicken skit. Like some guy is like, when we get Mother 3, and he's like, stop asking me that. And then he like throws a fireball at him. So it's on their mind. It's on their mind. I just don't know if it's gonna ever come to fruition.
I agree with that too, John. I remember watching that E3. That whole skit was great, but just the fact that they acknowledged it got me excited. Like, I still felt like there was hope there for this series to move on. And where this year is the 30th anniversary of Earthbound releasing in the US as well. And the fact that they brought Earthbound Beginnings over, which, as you guys know, is the original Mother game that was on the Famicom. So they brought that over. And when that came out too, I was like, okay, there's hope. Like, they're doing something with it. They didn't have to bring this over. So there's hope for Mother 3. And I thought it would be such a great NSO title to bring out. Like, people would be hyped about that. And you also mentioned it, John, that some people are playing Smash Brothers. And I agree with you. Like, think about like teenagers today playing Smash Brothers. Like, who's Ness? Right? Like, especially with that name. Ness, like, looks like NES. Like, why is a character named after the Nintendo? They might be thinking that, having no clue what it even is, how you pronounce it. I know it's spelled with 2 S's, but still, I gotta imagine they have no clue what this is all about. It's like, so why do you include him still in Smash? So I think they gotta do something there, man. There's a few dormant franchises I want to see. That's one of them.
F-Zero. I mean, it's the same like with Smash. I mean, now I think people probably consider Ness more of a Smash Brothers character as opposed to a Earthbound character. And in the US, we've never seen Lucas in a game outside of Smash. It's Lucas is only in Mother 3. So yeah, I feel the same way with Captain Falcon. Like, not a lot of people know not a lot of people played F-Zero. Like, now I know we have F-Zero 99, but like before that, they didn't care about F-Zero. They like Captain Falcon because he's in Smash.
Yep.
So
yeah, there's that. So we need F-Zero, we need Kid Icarus, we need Star Fox, we need Punch Out. I would love a Pilot Wings.
That would be great. Yeah.
I love the soundtrack on Pilot Wings 64. That was great. And you know what? While we're at it, give us a wave race, please. I love wave race.
1080 snowboarding, put that in there.
1080, yeah, that one too. Classic. Yeah, they don't make. It seems like Nintendo doesn't make racing games anymore outside of Mario Kart.
Yep.
There's nothing else that they do.
Hey, while we're at it, Excitebots.
I
love Excitebots. Excitebots.
You're showing your age on that one because that's
I played it last year.
a Wii
I played
game.
it last year first time.
And
but
a lot of Wii nostalgia going on. I bet you think Mario Kart Wii is the best Mario Kart too.
Not at all. Actually, I barely have any nostalgia for the Wii. Like, I think Galaxy's okay. I think it's a good game. I haven't played Twilight Princess.
Oh my god. Well, maybe one day we'll get a port.
That's what they got to drop as like a launch year title for Switch 2. That's their age.
And it really definitely would fit because my assumption was 2D Zelda next year. 2D Zelda is this year. Hey, there we go. What are you going to do for Zelda next year? Hey, and also those can be Switch 1 games, backwards compatible. Doesn't matter. Still supporting Switch 1. Hey,
I agree. Definitely. I'd love to see that. I still haven't given up hope on the Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD
I mean, I can see that being a launch.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we're gonna have a Zelda game at launch.
No, God, no.
A new one. Well, there's no way we get a new one.
Absolutely.
But they could put Twilight Princess Wind Waker at launch.
Not at launch.
That's the whole thing. They've sort of been holding out and manufacturing the hype. So
Yeah.
when it does drop, it's like we're getting a whole new game, even though we're getting
Totally.
these remakes of. It's basically like the third release of this game, but it's like we're getting a new game because they just like have built up this hype. So
Yeah.
I think it's coming still. I gotta think it's probably coming to Switch 2 now. Or maybe at least it's coming to both and it's optimized on Switch 2. Something. I just don't think there's truth to this somewhere.
Yeah.
Holding out.
Yeah,
hope.
you would think that they would want pretty much all of their Zelda games accessible on these systems. There's not many Zelda games that are not on the Switch now.
No, it's
here's an interesting idea though. Could we see them pull a Luigi's Mansion 2 with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask 3D and bring
Please.
Oh, that's definitely. I think that's definitely possible.
that
Absolutely.
would be next level.
How much money are we spending on these things? Like, am I going to have to spend $60 per? Like, they just showed that Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is $60.
All of it's
Like-
$60, buddy. Don't. Of course it's gonna be.
If it's, I mean, especially if it's like Zelda or something.
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no way.
Both of them $60. Like, if we get Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask both $60 a pop.
I got bad news,
No
John.
bundle.
All 4 of them are gonna be $60.
Oh my god! And I'll still buy them, but it's not like
Mhm.
I won't be happy about it.
Still holding out hope for a full remake.
Of Ocarina? That's
Yeah.
possible.
That
It
would
is the
be-
highest rated game of all time. And it would be a great game to release a full remake of. In the vein, I talked in the chat last week with Joycey J about this, but remake it in the vein of how they've went about Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you're not taking away, you're adding tons to it.
Mhm.
And I would
That'd be
love
a lot of work.
it would, but you know,
Do a 3-part game. How about
I
that?
would-
Oh,
I
I think it'd be great with the movie, the Zelda movie.
I was
Yeah.
What
recent-
better way?
I was recently talking with a
Yeah.
friend, and this is like a totally pipe dream level thing, so I don't expect this to ever happen. But I mentioned to them that it would be amazing if because we've had a lot of talk about a Sheik game, and there was even going to be a Sheik game at one point.
Yeah.
And so I kind of brought up the idea of like, what if they made this remake of Ocarina of Time, but then like they added like a portion in between, like once you get to the Temple of Time, you pull out the Master Sword, and they add this new section to the game that's
sure.
like
Yeah.
what Sheik did, and then
Yeah.
once you beat that, you go to the adult Link side, just
Mhm.
as like a icing on the cake type.
Kind of like
thing.
a zero mission section. Kind of like
Yeah.
just like an additive. Continue the story a little bit. Yeah, I like that. That's a
right,
great
and then
idea.
they don't have to like change the actual game itself, and we also get that Sheik game, which we know they've had interest
Yeah.
in doing. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing is, I think that the Zelda movie is probably 2027, and so that's a very possible development timeline for that kind of remake game. 4 years, but actually, I guess you could probably say that it could have started in like late 2022 because we know they were just doing polishing work on Tears of the Kingdom for like the last year of that game's development. So what were most of the developers working on? Maybe they started that early, and so that's 4 or 5 years of development. That's very possible for that game, or for whatever the next 3D Zelda game is. I think that 2027 is pretty possible.
I think so too. I'm excited at the idea of it because that game's special to, I would say, all of us. I'm sure we all have our own stories with that game, and again, it is still the highest rated game of all time. And if you remake it and you just add stuff to it, everyone's gonna love that because who doesn't want more of it? Like if they said, you know what, hey, the original game had this many dungeons, but we decided to put 4 more
Well-
dungeons in the game, I'd be like, okay, you
Well,
twisted my arm.
we know they took out like an ice dungeon because that's what they made
Yeah.
into the whole mini dungeon with the water temple or whatever. So there's stuff there that they didn't use. So
maybe that's why it's taking so long for Wind Waker to come out. They're actually going to release that dungeon that they had in there.
yeah,
That would
the
be so
extra
cool.
two. It's insane because like when you dig into like the developer commentary about Wind Waker, you realize that it's actually a pretty incomplete game because they rushed it. But it does not feel that way at all when you play it, really. Like, it feels like a complete game, which is crazy.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Yeah.
I remember that. Would it have 4 dungeons? Was it 4 dungeons? And then
it has 3, it basically has 5, I think. And then it has the Triforce race, and then you have Ganon's tower. So
yeah, smallest and not I don't know about scale because the ocean is so vast in that game, but the least amount of dungeons of any Zelda game, right? Easily.
Majora's Mask, I think, has 4. But other than that, I think that is probably true.
Yeah, and Majora's had so many side quests, which
Right.
help fill in some of the game time there. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I would love to see something like that happen.
Yeah. So that was their last question. Anybody else got anything quick to add, or we want to go around the room and just introduce yourselves or reintroduce yourselves, plug something that you got going, and we'll sign off.
Outroduce ourselves.
Outroduce yourself. Yeah,
There you go.
That's all
There
done.
you go.
Tucker, you want to start it?
Yeah, sure. I like to keep it light. I like to throw in a little joke here and there. Keep people entertained. My name is Tucker Hazel. I have a YouTube channel called Backlog Banter, and I do believe that we got 1 or 2 subscribers while this was all going. So thank you very much, everyone, for that. Hey, I just refreshed it. It went up. It went up by 1. Let's go.
Nice.
I love video games. Obviously, I love talking about them. I love speculating. I've got a bunch of interesting projects in the works. I mentioned this last time I was on the show, but and this is something that will, I think, interest all of you, given how much Switch 2 talking we've been doing here. My co-host Abram and I have been prepping a video where we predict every single Nintendo published game for Switch 2. And when they're releasing and which teams are doing them and what kind of, like, we're going all out. This is going to be a big thing. I mean, we're just waiting till like that system has more concrete information, because it would suck to like plan it all out from like, okay, the system's going to be releasing in March and then it comes out in May and suddenly everything's like thrown off whack. But I love talking about video games, and if you like my sense of humor today, if you like the passion and knowledge I've been bringing to some of these conversations, we got a whole hell of a lot of videos you can go and watch, and we're also making a whole hell of a lot of videos. So I really hope that you come say hi, leave a comment on that and on any video that you watch. If you did come from here and say, hey, I saw you on the Nintenbyte podcast, and a lot of fun. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for having me here and for listening to me talk about a bunch of nonsense games that I've ever heard of.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oops, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So I've been here a few times before, but if anyone still doesn't know me, and Hoops and Hip Hop, I have a YouTube channel where I talk about Pokemon stuff specifically. So if you're into Pokemon at all, definitely check me out. I do a lot of fun stuff there. Talk about just about basically everything. I got a lot of big projects, and with Legends ZA coming out, it's going to be a fun time. So yeah,
dude, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Perfect.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, I'm Johnny Bo everywhere. Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I have 2 podcasts. I'm on the Communication Air Podcast and Nintendo Powercast. I mentioned at the top of the show that I lost a bet, and the bet was I didn't think that there was going to be any new Nintendo released games this year.
What?
So I lost that bet.
That was an absolutely ridiculous bet to make.
No, it was a good idea at the time. All right. We only knew about remakes and remasters. There was a caveat. I had Metroid Prime as a caveat. I even lost that part of it. So as soon as the direct opened, I'm like, oh, I lose. Game over. I was watching that trailer. I'm like, oh, 100%. This has to be a remake, right? This is a remake of Mario and Luigi. This is not a new Mario and Luigi game. Alpha Dream's dead. Like, there's no way this is a new game. And then they showed it's a new game.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I will be. I ordered the one chip. We'll be doing that.
Oh my god.
And then the last thing, I am going to Too Many Games this weekend, and I'm worried that I will be by myself and alone. So if you're going to be at Too Many Games and you see me there, just don't be afraid to say something.
Are any of you going to PAX West? Because I'm going to PAX West this year.
There's no Nintendo Live. If there was Nintendo Live, I probably would have went. But
yeah, I was there last year. I went there. I played Mario. I was one of the first people to plan to play Mario Wonder. That was awesome.
That's cool.
Nice. Thunder Stash.
Well, yeah, you guys can find me there at Thunder Stash Gaming. And as you'll notice, yes, I changed the name. It's no longer Thunder Steve 85 Gaming. I rebranded it. It's Thunder Stash Gaming. Everything's changed. Everything's updated. So yeah, please go check out my channel. Check out some videos, subscribe. I just posted, was it this morning? I revisited a game from 1989. True classic in my eyes. The game is DuckTales for regular Nintendo.
Yeah. Speaking of Shovel Knight.
I know, right? There's some inspiration there. But there's a twist on this. I played DuckTales on Super Nintendo. It is a unofficial Super Nintendo port. There's more information in the video. I put a link in the description on where you can find it, because the guy who did this has ported other games from NES to Super, and it uses the MSU1 chip. If you guys are familiar with that, there was supposed to be a CD add-on for Super Nintendo. This is prior to their discussions with Sony back in the day when they were going to make a console together, which was prior to the PlayStation. There was going to be a CD add-on for Super Nintendo that added CD sound quality. This is back when like CDs were very extremely popular, right? And so there's a ton of Super Nintendo games that have come out with CD quality soundtrack, and it's pretty wild. Like you got to see it, you got to hear it. It's extremely impressive. So look into that. It's very cool. And the next game I think I'm going to play is Mike Tyson's Punch Out, because they ported that to Super Nintendo.
Cool.
And it looks really cool. So I'm interested to see that. But again, like you can play A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo with a fully orchestrated soundtrack. It's pretty amazing.
Cool.
So yeah, check out this DuckTales video. The intro is really cool on it too. They even have the cartoon intro built into the game, like the FMV.
Nice.
So
That's fun.
yeah, very cool stuff. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just going down memory lane, and then also trying to knock out some other games for review, some current games. I reviewed Paper Mario, 100% at that. That took 55 hours, so I need some smaller games like these ones. So that's what I'm up to.
There you go. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And last but not least, I am Eric Moore. You can find me here most weeks on the Nintenbyte Podcast, 8 p.m. on Wednesdays. With that, I think that's going to do it. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll